Nyaho! Nyaho, everybody! Hello. Welcome back to Warhammer Wednesday! Yay! Let's say hi to everybody! Nyaho Hecka, you got the first kiss. First kiss is redeemable on Twitch only. Nyaho Hecka. You can be first on YouTube, but you can't get a kiss. Sorry about it. Nyaho D Monster 01, hi. Nyaho Bella, Nyaho Leora, Nyaho Big E, Nyaho Mikla. Nyaho. Hello. Nyaho Sino. Welcome in. Today, the YouTube poll decided that we are going to learn about the Salamanders. Yeah. So when I was talking about, I was asking you guys which Space Marines do you think was my fave? Some of you said Salamanders. Now, other suggestions that I had were the Lamenters, which are my faves, and the Space Sharks, which are also my faves. So let's see if you guys are 3 for 3 with the Salamanders. How am I? I'm doing good. I've been a little bit in and out, I was sick. I had friends over. I went on a trip, and now I'm back, and we're back to normal, and I'm back to learning. Yeah, how are you guys? How you doing? What's going on? What's new? Tell me new things. You know what's new? I got a new emote on Twitch. Yeah, actually. Oh, hi, Frost. Welcome back, Frost. Crimson Fist would be awesome. Not gonna lie. Hi, Grand Taurus. Crimson Fist. Write that down. Yeah, I haven't gone into that. Maybe I'll put that on the Hecka. Write that down. Crimson Fist for next week. Not doing good to the new TFT. I believe in you, Hecka. I believe. I was gonna play some TFT if I got into the box thing, but I didn't. So I'm focusing on Pokemon and Riftbound and RimWorld and Warhammer. Just 4 little interconnected things. And Leora, shout out to Leora. Shout out to Leora for working on the Warhammer RimWorld mod list. Yay! Have we done any of the Traitor Legions yet? I don't think so. Right, guys? I don't think so. Nope, we haven't done a single one of the Traitor Legions. Hey! That could be good. Your mic was being dumb and you sounded like a chipmunk. A chipmunk wee wow. Blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. Exactly. What is your favorite Legion and why? Legion or chapter? I mentioned that I like the Lamenters because they're sad and good guys, which I heard the Salamanders are also good guys. And I like the Space Sharks because they're sharks and they have like Pacific Islander motifs. I also predict you'll love Cyphus Kane when you learn of him. Heard. Write that down. Hey, maybe we can switch into the Traitor Legions. Thoughts? Yeah. Also, my birthday's coming up and I haven't planned anything. I should plan.
Cutie detected
Hey,
Nyaho.
Jay, thank you for the resub. Itadakimasu. I'll see what I can have planned for my birthday, okay? Okay. Yeah. And yeah. I did change the videos a little bit. we are going to learn a little bit about Vulkan. A little bit. So some of the videos do overview Vulkan, but I was like, hey, let's do a video just about him, okay? And we'll see how that goes. So yeah. Have you heard of the Minotaurs? I have! I reacted to the Minotaurs. The Minotaurs in the same video as the Lamenters, I'm pretty sure. The Lamenters and the Minotaurs were in the same video. But obviously, the Lamenters, I was like, you're my fave, you're my guys. So yeah. Okay, let's get to it here. I am sizable. Okay, so we're going to start with Mr.Bones 40k. He's going to talk about Vulkan, the kindest of all the primarchs. And I don't think I've reacted to any of Mr.Bones 40k before. This is the first time, so let's see how it goes. This one was also more recent, so like in the last 2-ish years. Some of the other Vulkan videos were a little bit older, so I chose this one. Have you seen the Siege of Virax? I have not. Write that down. A very huggy boy, huggy wuggies. Okay, let's go. Max volume.
Hi, I'm Arthur. And
Hi,
this is
Arthur.
part 17 in a 20-part series I am doing a bit more of a deep dive into the primarchs of each of the legions in order of the legions. Do you need to have seen the other parts to understand this one? No. But
Nice,
it would make me
because we
happy.
haven't.
This video is going
we'll make
to
you happy.
be fun.
Yay!
I think that I have a lot to say about the particular subject of today's little soiree.
Okay.
And I'm gonna try my best to speak my truth and try to be as funny as possible while doing so. The topic, the target, and the lovely individual we are covering is the kind-hearted giant, the Primarch of the 18th, the one, the only, Vulkan. Winner of several
Number
best hug
18.
competitions, as well as responsible for at least 1 or 2 war crimes in his day. Vulkan is a pretty fun
Hugs
lad.
and war crime.
I
Love
think
it.
With all the Primarchs combined, it's easy to say that he is the kindest and also one of the most beloved. There's this thing that, I don't know what the name of it is, but there's probably a term for it. It might just be hindsight biased. But if I ever went to someone and was like, hey, what's your favorite Primarch? And their response was Alfarius. My immediate response is, oh, why is that? Not because there's anything wrong with any of the Primarchs or that I judge Alfarius for his mere existence, but usually because when someone picks one of the weirder dudes, I feel there is either a justification or a story behind it that I'm curious to learn more about. But
I know that's some of you. Some of you love Alfarius. Speak up.
if someone ever says Vulkan, I literally don't need any further explanation. He's just kind of cool.
Hey,
is
you're
all.
cool
Same
if you
with,
say
like,
Vulkan.
Gilliman, Rogel Dorn, and the like. You know, the guys that are like you could immediately understand the appeal of.
He didn't say Sanguinius. He said Robute, Rogel Dorn, and Vulkan. Oh, Riri. He didn't say Sanguinius. Akis.
And Rogel Dorn and the like, you know, the guys that are like you could immediately understand the appeal of. They're all solid choices, and I think that Vulkan is kind of the top of the heap there. He exemplifies the concept where my exact response whenever someone says Vulkan is just, nah, I get you. I understand the person on a spiritual level after that. He is one of those guys that if you identify with him, I bet you're pretty chill. But
Hey,
yeah,
I bet you're
we
chill.
do have a lot to cover as per the usual. So I'll do my normal formula. Discuss his relationship with his family, discuss his relationship with the Emperor, discuss his relationship with his legion, all that fun stuff. But I gotta cover his start, where he began and who he is personally. Before I get into any of that, I just want to say, if you like the video, make sure to like the video. If you like me, and you think I'm cute, then subscribe, as it helps a lot. Use code BONEZONE at checkout for 10% off game
Bone Zone.
or click the link in the description, and let's hop in, shall we? Vulkan, during the
Hopping
scattering
in.
of Primarchs, was sent to a planet that I only marginally hesitate to call a shithole, because I feel like I overuse that, but it kinda is. Like, it's a sun-baked volcanic planet by the name of Nocturne, and it is literally covered with dragon-like creatures called Salamanders, which are, well, they're dragons that are more or less immune to fire. He was adopted by some random blue-collar worker by the name of Unbal, who basically saw Vulkan as kind of a mythical, prophesized, chosen whatever. Which, when you reach 6 feet tall, by the age of, like, 4, have glowing red eyes, and have literally fallen from the fucking sky in a burning meteor, which, yeah, I'd probably be a bit invested in the child's safety after that. Yeah, it does make a lot of sense why he came to that conclusion. The thing with Vulkan is he was taught the trade of blacksmithing, as Inbal is just kind of a regular guy, a commoner. And this leads into what, you know, Vulkan and all the other primarchs kind of tended towards, which is when they were taught a skill, they immediately became the best at it. But there is an important distinction to make with Vulkan. See, with, say, Perturabo or First Menace, it was kind of a similar situation where they were taught a specific trade or craft, usually around the creation of metallic goods, and they just became the best of it. But with Perturabo, Ferris Manus, and, you know, any other craftsman primarchs, you find that there isn't a level of passion there. It is a dispassionate idealism. This idea of, I am the best, therefore I make the best things to suit whatever needs that I have. Meanwhile, Vulkan, it kind of comes off to me that he creates things for the purpose of creation. He enjoys the process.
He's an artist,
and so he does it. He does things.
He's a crafty guy.
He likes doing them. There doesn't really need to be a reason for him to do it. He just does it because he wants to, and that leads to his artisanal equipment to have a bit more flair.
Promethean steel blade capable of melting ceramite. Prayers of the Forge Father honoring the weapon's marker. Heat refractive grips allowed the spear to be wielded by mortal hands. Energy coil for Promethean field generation.
To them, if you mind the pun. But yes, at the heart of Vulkan is passion for his art, and I think that's a very endearing thing.
He's passionate.
We'll come back to that later.
The most passionate.
Vulkan does things because he wants to, not because he's told to, so we'll stick a pin in that specific idea for a little corkboard for later. But yeah, Vulkan, as is with most primarchs, grew up to help the people of Nocturne, and in a way, we can all agree is fair, balanced, and even fun by slaughtering a shitload of Dark Eldar. Yeah, Nocturne had a bit of a Dark Eldar problem, and thus he kind of developed a hatred for them early, like any based man should. But yeah, after purging the Dark Eldar from Nocturne and making it very evident that they should not fucking return, and being considered a pretty cool guy, having done so, Vulkan entered into a competition. A bunch of tests of strength to bolster their morale, as well as celebrate everything that's going on Nocturne with a bunch of the other common folk. Here's where something particularly interesting happened, though. See, during the celebration, a stranger appeared. He was kind of out of place, a pale man in robes that seemed of a material that didn't really fit Nocturne, and no one could really place exactly where it would have come from. He was not from the lands, obviously, and he was also incredibly pale, which on a planet that's baked in sun as much as this wouldn't exactly survive that long. But yeah, he showed up and talked one hell of a big fucking game. But yeah, basically he stated that he could best any man on Nocturne in any challenge. Now, see, everybody here was gassing up Vulkan because bro is like Ronnie Coleman skilled up. Vulkan always
he's that guy.
Challenged and allowed the stranger to compete. Most people kind of bowed out.
Oh, not Uncle Malky. Dad
came around out of nowhere. Yeah, he was kind of not McFucking around, as him and Vulkan were actually comparable in skill at all ends of the spectrum, with competitions of strength, cunning, tactics, intelligence, all being neck and neck for the majority of these competitions. It came to the final trial, the final game, to see who would be the victor of this, I guess, competition between brotherly, manly men. So, two things. One, the stranger was capping to hell and back, as by his own admission he could best any man at any challenge, and in order for him and Vulkan to have been tied, he would have had to at least lose a few games, so fuck him, I guess. The second thing is that this meant that it would come down to the final challenge, and I forgot to mention what the stakes were, as there is a lot on the line. Whoever lost the challenges at the end would have to swear fealty to the other and pledge service for eternity. So say there was a lot on the line is a bit of an understatement.
Yeah,
regardless, Vulkan and this stranger had to embark upon the final challenge, which was craft a weapon in 1 or 2 days and then go out and kill a salamander, drag its corpse back to the judges, and whoever had the biggest salamander would be declared the winner. Now, as weird as it is to say, this is kind of going to be where I diverge a bit from what everybody else believes. Though, don't yell at me, I'm literally like 6 years old and also an idiot. So, I haven't read the entirety of the Horus Heresy yet, so this could probably be proven wrong later. But how the story goes is the Stranger and Vulkan created weapons. The Stranger made a very finely created sword, and Vulkan made a hammer because hammers are cool. Vulkan had
Warhammer
been the first one to find a big salamander, one of the biggest ones he'd ever seen, before the Stranger did, obviously. But due to a sudden eruption of the active volcano that they were on, Vulkan's life was kind of on the line here. See, in one hand, he clutched the tail of the salamander, refusing to let go, and on the other hand, he gripped the ledge of the mountain itself. Magma flow was kind of right beneath him, so if he let go, he would die. But if he dropped the salamander, he would lose the challenge because he had no more time to do it. He hung on there for hours upon hours upon hours until he was losing grip. Eventually, the Stranger shows up, holding an even bigger salamander than that of what Vulkan would have. But in a show of compassion, the Stranger throws the salamander into a thick bed of lava and uses it as a platform to jump on. See, salamanders are resistant to heat, so he had enough time to get across, but the salamander was still destroyed in the end. He shows up, grabs Vulkan, saves his life, and even saves his salamander. They head back to the competition judging grounds. Vulkan wins because he has a salamander, and the Stranger does not. And this is when it's revealed that the Stranger, whose surprise fucking prize was actually the Emperor of Mankind.
Oh, it was Dad.
The fuck
It was
else
Dad.
would it be, dude? But yeah,
Hey, it was
there are
Dad.
several interpretations of the scene, and mine is optimistic. But the main way people see this is it was a ploy by the Emperor to convince Vulkan through kind actions to serve him, as he could probably tell that this big lug wouldn't truly serve him if he had just won. So showing this kind act was a way to easily sway Vulkan to his side. I think it is kind of nihilistic to see the Emperor in such a light. I like to think that the Primarchs are actually each shards in some way of the Emperor's personality made manifest. Now, there is also the impact that the societies they were sent to have on them, which is mixed in and kind of dilutes it. But the inherent kindness and compassion that is in Vulkan, I believe, is also in the Emperor. I think the Emperor was being genuine when saving Vulkan. Because, I mean, realistically, would Vulkan say no after the Emperor revealed himself to be his actual dad? I think that it all worked out, literally, because real respects real. I think it's so fucking cool that the Emperor chose to be kind as well. In all honesty, he didn't need to go through all this. He could have just shown up and before the competitions even began, been like, oh yeah, I'm endorsing Vulkan and I'm gonna send my best champions and we're gonna have a great time. There's so many different ways he could have done it, but instead he decided to sacrifice the win, sacrifice his pride, go against the expectations he set, and still, you know, lose the competition and get Vulkan on his side. I do think that there is probably multiple perspectives at play here, because the Emperor, I think, is a very complicated individual. I think that there is always more than one specific angle that he is working at any given point. Does that mean that he was inherently cruel and just doing it to manipulate Vulkan? I don't fucking know, I'm an idiot. Or is he doing it because he's kind? I like to think it's probably a mixture of 5 different motivations behind it, like he does with everything else, but I like to think the more optimistic look at it. But yeah, the same old song and dance occurs. The Emperor...
That's interesting, because I think a lot of other people who talk about the Emperor talk about him in a way that, yeah, everything is according to plan, and technically, yes, that is manipulation in some way, but like he said, like, there's so many other ways to manipulate someone, and he chose the kind way. So there has to be, I agree, some little nugget of kindness in there. Or, you know, he could just big brain it and be like, well, this is the most effective way I could get through to him by being kind, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm sure if he was like, you know, that's a waste of time, I'm not gonna do that, he would have thought that too. So yeah, interesting to see optimism. I know some of you Emperor enjoyers, Emperor supporters would like that take. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's more optimistic, or do you think it was all according to Keikaku? I can see the argument for both sides. And this is our first video on Vulkan, so maybe the other videos will be like, actually, it was all according to plan. But yeah, cool. Proceed.
Recruited this lovely, dehuggable man into his armies, and with all that sorted, he got to work with his legion, the Dragon Warriors, which he renamed in honor of his duel with the Emperor to the Salamanders, which I think is cute. But before we get into that, I kind of want to go on a brief aside about something that is only partially related, but no one ever brings up, or at least no one that I've ever seen. But yeah, 1 second, let's just take a brief intermission. We're doing this again. Okay, cool. Sorry about the video being late, by the way. You know, it's about a few minutes to an hour, if I'm reading this correctly. It's been one hell of a crunch time because, next week I'm going to LVO, so I'm getting a lot of this done beforehand, and this is one of the last ones that I have to get done. So, yeah. Hi. Hello. How are you? Hope you're enjoying the video so far. I just wanted to take a minute to just discuss a topic that I think is weird that no one really brings it up, or at least no one I've ever seen really talk about it.
Yeah, man, bring it up.
When the Emperor actually abducts his primarch sons, he brings them back to Terra and just kind of lets them chill there for as long as they want. I don't even think there's a time limit. I think that in general, he takes them to Terra to teach them the entirety of the history of the Imperium of Mankind, teach them the ways, teach them the languages, and then lets them tinker around with whatever technology they want. I know that the adjustment period is described as weird at the best of times, and I know that some Primarchs adapt to it better, but this is basically so that they get as much time as they want with the Emperor of Mankind before they're set off into the universe, so that they know what they're fighting for rather than just fighting and dying for absolutely fuck all nothing. Now, there is some interesting notes to be had here. Apparently, Vulkan was one of the most pleasant ones to be around when he was on Terra. Though Malkador, if I remember correctly, was very opposed to the level of hugs and kindness and physical gestures that Vulkan would give. I think it's very interesting
Uncle
that they never
Malky
bring
didn't
that
like
up, because it's such an interesting idea that is where they get their idea of humanity, from its core, from its center, as well as a mixture from their home planet. As it stands, I think that Vulkan is one of the quicker to be dispatched Primarchs from the planet, leaving to go help his sons on a different faraway world like I'm about to mention. I think contextually, the Primarch who took the absolute longest to leave Terra was Jagatai Khan, though I don't think we have reference for many other Primarchs. I would love to see how long it took Kurz to say, fuck this, I'm leaving, but you know, it is what it is. Regardless, that was just an aside that I wanted to bring up because no one ever talks about it. And yeah, we're just gonna get back to the video. Hope you're enjoying the Vulkan video so far. Hope you like the little random trivia fact that I'm just spitting here. Use code BONEZONE at checkout for 10% off GamerSupps purchases, as well as support
the Salamander's specialty is to take and hold.
And you see someone who looks vaguely like how you think I sound, I don't know, harass me. But yeah, back to the video. Okay, with that bullshit out of the way, let's get into the second half of the video. Vulkan,
hey, I like the motif.
Is one of the most emblematic relationships
I like the
I've
theming
ever seen between Primarchs and Legions. See, when a Primarch meets a Legion, it usually sets the tone for their entire relationship, for the most part. Perturabo meeting the Iron Warriors and demanding they decimate themselves due to recent failure. Then Angron having be sent to gay baby jail for a bit too long due to him throwing a bit of a tantrum when he was beamed aboard the ship before he could, you know, die with his friends. And then probably slaughtering quite a few of his own World Eaters. It just goes to show how the relationship is going to progress in the future. But with Vulkan, it's a bit different. See, the Dragon Warriors were fighting a massive orc incursion on some planet. They had a massive predilection towards self-sacrifice, so they were losing numbers rather rapidly. Vulkan has been sent there to help with 3,000 new recruits that were raised from Nocturne, the first Nocturne initiates. Also, fun fact, while this was going on, the Lion and 2 other of the unknown Primarchs were actually battling the Rangda, which is really weird that this is happening at the same time, because I feel like Vulkan probably should have been sent there, but like, you know. Vulkan appeared on this planet to save his sons at the last minute, rallying his troops and basically saving the day. His sons almost genetically knew he was their gene sire, a legend in the flesh, someone that
they felt it in their bones.
So they instinctively
They were
knelt
like, "This
in
is
appreciation of his
Dad."
support. But in a show of his character, Vulkan actually told them not to. He told them that they had been fighting long before he showed up, and he was simply the final hammer blow force to aid them. He should be kneeling to them, as they are the true heroes
humble
here,
king!
and sons of him, true and blue. Which is such a fucking Vulkan thing to do.
Humble
Dude,
king!
He praised them for their heroics, their compassion, and their willingness to
Wow.
sacrifice it all if it meant that they could save just a few more civilians. They truly were genetically his kids, and this dude was happy as can be about that. So, cut ahead, and
Happy
you
dad.
have yourself one of the happiest legions out there. Sort of. Well, happy when they aren't dealing with, like, Dark Eldar, which is pretty common, as they did enjoy dealing with Dark Eldar from time to time, but that would get really dark really quick. And when I say dealing with them, I actually mean war criming them to death with flame-based weaponry. Now that we kind of have an idea of him up to the Horus Heresy, let's kind of talk about what actually happened during the Heresy, at least touch upon it before we get into, like, my wrap-up of the video.
Yeah.
As there was kind of a lot that happened to Vulkan during the Heresy. He didn't do a lot, but a lot happened to him. There isn't much detail needed other than Vulkan kinda got fucked over from the start, but in general, so you know the Istvan 5 drop site massacre? Where a lot of loyalist forces were deployed to apprehend Horus and a few of the traitor forces that were down there, only to find out that half of the reinforcements that were sent were actually traitors and slaughtered the majority of the loyalist forces there. Well, the Salamanders were a part of that, which is, not good. So a lot, if not most, Salamanders were killed during this excursion. Check out my Promethean Kings video to know a bit more about that. But in general, the idea to self-sacrifice to save the others kind of cost Salamanders the majority of their ranks at this time. It even led to Vulkan getting a nuke dropped on him from orbit, killing him with his sons. Okay, sort of. See, this is where we find out that Vulkan is something that is referred to as a perpetual, like his father. Vulkan is kind of a true immortal. You can throw him into the heart of a star, and somehow he will respawn a short while later, and might I add, also he will be incredibly pissed off. So he did that, but all good things have to come to an end, and he ended up getting captured by the Night Haunter, which, if I may be frank, in the top 5 worst fates to be possible in 40k, I'd say being captured by the Night Haunter is likely the worst, with a close second being Hanzo existing on the same planet as you, but I digress. So Curse, being the girly pop he is, decided to torture Vulkan in as many ways as he possibly could think of. Finding out that Vulkan could actually never truly die, he just dedicated a huge swath of time to torturing him and trying to break him mentally and psychologically. He would put him into tests that would completely break down Vulkan's character, or at least attempt to, such as an area filled with civilians with a massive anvil over it and affixed to a massive chain, and Vulkan had to be the only person to stop the chain from dropping on top of them. It was basically to make him give up and crush them early, just because, like, you know, it's kind of a foregone conclusion, but that's kind of the interesting part. He held the weight until he couldn't do it anymore, because even though the end point is kind of predetermined, the struggle is what matters most here. But death after death, time after time, Vulkan would never break, and his morals would never be sacrificed. And this all led to the ultimate final battle between Kurz and Vulkan, where Kurz left Vulkan's super magic special super mega hammer, Dawnbringer, at the end of this massive labyrinth that was constructed in his honor. See, Dawnbringer had a teleporter inside of it that Vulkan could use to teleport back to his ship and get to safety. And, you know, all he had to do was just go find it. It took an uncomfortable amount of time, but he did it. He found his hammer after being murdered over and over and over by Kurz. He hefted the hammer and pressed the teleport button to find it wasn't working. The hammer's tech shit had not been working at all. all. Kurz laughed at Vulkan's face, having appeared from the shadows behind him just to taunt him, to tell him that he was a fool for ever believing that he would let his prize leave so easily, that it was so funny seeing him try and fail, that he had stripped the teleport bullshit from the first second it landed in his tech bay. Kurz wanted to drink in the misery of Vulkan realizing that he truly couldn't escape, but Kurz was interrupted by Vulkan stating a simple fact. "You're forgetting one thing, brother," to which Kurz, still amused, asked, "Oh, and what's that?" Without hesitating, Vulkan kind of puts his hammer in both hands and simply says, "It is also a hammer." He proceeds to beat the ever-loving shit out of Kurz and berate him through the entire endeavor, which was really satisfying to watch, even as someone who's a bit of a Night Lords fan. It was a pretty fun experience, and the sentence, "It is also a hammer," has kind of become a bit of a vocal sting for me. It's pretty fun. Regardless, the end point of all this is Vulkan disappeared. There was a lot of steps of him having weird pain dementia, but like, I'm not that far read in the Horus Heresy, but we'll get there someday, I promise. But he ended up disappearing, and there's a lot of other smaller bits.
Recovery.
Like, he did
Therapy.
come back for the War of the Beast, and then disappeared again, but he kind of pulled a Lehman and said that I will return once certain criteria are appeased, which with Vulkan seems a lot more reasonable than what Lehman did, because what Lehman said was, I will return when shit is really bad, which, well, shit's kind of really bad right now, so I guess that means it has
Lemon,
to be bad.
where are you?
No, Vulkan, what he did was, he basically said, if you collect my 9 super magical special whatever artifacts, then I'll return, which they've been doing a pretty good job of collecting them. But
why? Why are we treasure hunting?
We know that he disappeared, probably goes on a soul-searching mission, and wants to test his sons to see if they're going to maintain his level of kindness and his level of
I'm pretty sure
protection
he's
of the
just
civilians.
recovering.
So,
but why are we
doing
treasure
this video,
hunting?
I have gained a much greater appreciation for Vulkan than I did before, to the point where I genuinely...
Why is he like, my sons, I will come back when you gather this treasure? Like, what are we doing here? Hello? Silly Goofy? What's happening?
I have been looking at salamanders in a different light. I love the miniatures, especially for the Horus Heresy.
Cutie.
I love just the aesthetic of them, and I love the fact that they're kind.
Little green
But Vulkan
guys.
himself, he's a good guy. His Legion are good guys. He is a fun dude to hang out with, and honestly, I don't think I'd want it any other way. But the thing I admire most about Vulkan is kind of ubiquitous to the setting, and that is the indomitable might of the human spirit, but not in the way that we are a wrathful species and will burn the entire universe down, a society of individuals dedicated to war. No, it's more, we are primitive, yes, but at our core, we do seek the betterment of others. We do seek to make the lives of our fellow man and woman better.
Beautiful.
The fact that Vulkan and his sons are willing to sacrifice themselves in order to save people who are, by all facts of the matter, less than them in terms of usefulness, not just because they were told, or not just because it was an order or some genetic imperative, but because it was the right thing to do, it makes me enjoy this setting more. I think pacifism and kind acts in a vacuum mean literally nothing, less than nothing, honestly. If someone in my relatively low violent crime rate, albeit high drug arrest rate, island, came to me and said, yes, I oppose violence and I'm a pacifist, then it just comes off as moral posturing, because, well, you're never really confronted with some kind of situation where you have the choice to overcome that or to stick to your ideals there. But that's why I enjoy Vulkan. With those individuals, you're just supposed to infer that if they were ever in a position to decide between violence and non-violence, that they will always choose violence, but they're never going to be put into that situation. But I think the inverse is where it's important, and why the Salamanders are one of my favorite chapters in Legions of Marines. That is because, well, they are the good men in a universe filled with monsters who punish good men. They're the people who, even if it means they will sacrifice themselves, they will do it every time if it means just saving one person who cannot protect themselves. They will do it no matter what. Not because they are predisposed to do so, not because it was something they were told to do. They will do it because it is the right thing to do. It's the kind thing to do, which is why salamanders stick out. They actively put themselves in harm's way, not just because they are space marines and they are the sword of the Imperium, but because they are the shield of the people of the Imperium. They know that you're not just supposed to attack the things that are trying to destroy your way of life, but defend your way of life as well. A lot of Marines tend to forget that. It's why some of my favorite interactions in the setting are between Black Templars and Salamanders, as they are two opposite sides of the same coin. Salamanders have never forgotten. They are the shield that protects the weak, and Vulkan is the distillation of that. Vulkan is a champion of humanity, and I love him as a character. I think we can all learn a lot from Vulkan. To do the right thing, even if it comes at great personal cost to ourselves. So with all that being said, of course we are kicking off the new year with an Erebus video followed by a fucking Vulkan video. Why the fuck else would it be any different here? I think it's on brand for this channel. Regardless, thank you all for watching. And make sure to let me know what you think of Vulkan in the comments and what kind of content you'd like to see coming in with the new year. Special thanks to my channel members.
I love Vulkan. Wait, he lives on an island? We got an islander here? Hello? Crazy. Yay, 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 yay. Yay, yay, yay. Wow, that was great. I love those salamanders. Time for everybody else to be more pessimistic and say, actually, it wasn't that nice and cuddly. Hell's Reach, that is on the list. Hell's Reach is on the list. Do you have any 40k army? I have orcs that I need to paint. Soon we will get to painting those orcs. On Twitch, not on YouTube. Okay, next, we have ArbitorIan. He's going to go through a full thing. We got all of it. Orcs! Okay. People have been asking for Ian back on the channel. Vulkan, my boy! No hater. Vulkan the boy. He's a nice guy. I like him. Biscuit Rose, thank you for the raid. Welcome in, everybody. Oh my gosh, we have Rimworlders in here. Welcome in, Rimworlders. Brisket for the biscuit. Yeah. Hello. Thank you for the follow, Biscuit Roads and Lugia Splash. I am sSakana, your friendly neighborhood sushi roll. I'm a fish. I sing, I scream.
New fishy alert. Blue GS Splash.
I play a lot of RimWorld, and I'm getting into Warhammer, and we are going to be doing Warhammer mod on RimWorld maybe this week, or maybe next week. I don't know. Whenever Leora is ready. Leora's making it. Why is your first impressions of me Clitville? Well, hey, welcome in. We are learning about Vulkan and the Salamanders today. So we learned a little bit about Vulkan, and we're going to get into more of an overview of Vulkan and the Salamanders, and then more about the Salamanders. And yeah, if you like Warhammer, let me know who you like. For the orcs, I have the Storm Boys, the Boys, and the Ludas. But I want all of them. I do want all. We will be shopping on Zephyr Arcade for all of them. Don't you worry. Use my code sSakana for 10% off on Zephyr Arcade. Which mod, Grimworld or Rimdark for Rimworld? That's a question for Leora. I told her to go crazy with it. Actually, I was just like, hey, whatever you can do, you can do. 40k wise, I love the Tau and the Tyrannid Lover. I've actually not met a Tyrannid Lover before. Welcome in, Tyrannid Lover. Guys, be nice. We can like different things. Different strokes for different yokes. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for the raid, Biscuit Rose. Welcome in. I hope you had a great stream. I hope your colony is thriving and surviving. Feel free to take care of yourself after the stream. Eat some snacks, take a nap, or learn more about Warhammer with me. I will take very good care of the snacks you have left me. My bruv had a Tau army and I had a Tyrannid army. Oh my goobus. Yeah, I like the orcs. I went to Adepticon a couple weeks ago. That was fun. For Space Marines, I like the Space Sharks And I like the Lamenters, so my chat lovingly calls themselves the Larks. And we are pink, and I want to get around to that. But since I have so much green for orcs, I can probably make some salamanders. I am a simple blood angel enjoyer. Nice. This is a safe place for the heretics, the mutant, and the alien. Yes, yes, yes. Almost won a game, so business going eepy. Okay, go eepy, go eepy. Do you plan to show us the orc models you're working on? Yes, so I built them on Twitch, which I did upload on YouTube. It's uploaded now on YouTube under the We Got Sponsored. So Zephyr Arcade sponsored the Ludas and the Storm Boys. I built them and then I will paint them. Now that it's kind of warming up in the freaking Midwest, I needed to order new covers for my mask. Straw Possum, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. And so I'm going to prime them and then we'll start painting. But I will be doing the painting on Twitch because I like to listen to music while I do crafting and stuff. And YouTube doesn't like that. YouTube's like, we hate that. So yeah. That'll be on Twitch. I'll put the schedule on the YouTube, though, so you can see when to go over to Twitch. And, hi, I'm new.
Oh my god, you're
Welcome
cute.
in Zephyr Arcade.
Bones kind of glossed over this, but Nocturne's people were utterly terrified of the Drukhari before Vulkan came along. They would just hide in their homes and pray they would be overlooked. Vulkan saw this, picked up 2 hammers, marched out alone, and started swinging. The people eventually joined in. And let's just say she who thirsts was eating good that day.
Ooh, thank you, Grand Tourist, for that. I wonder if maybe Ian will talk more about that in this video. But yeah, the Nocturne people did not like the Drukhari. Makes sense to me. Makes sense to me. And Vulcan's just like, hey, I got hammers. I got 2 of them. Anyways, welcome in your new Zephyr Arcade. Use my code ssakanasushi at Zephyr Arcade. They want more orcs. We will get more orcs. Let me paint the ones that I have, and then we can go shopping on Zephyr Arcade again, okay? Unless you guys want to fund that. Hey, who's stopping you? We also have a truck to build. Oh my goodness. I'm taking notes. Take notes. Chatting about Warhammer is always fun. I like it. I have fun. Let's learn from Ian. This video is double what the other one was, so let's see.
Hi gang, the Salamanders chapter stands as a beacon of unwavering resolve within the Warhammer 40,000 universe, renowned for their mastery of fire and forge, their craftsmanship,
like this
and
video.
their deep connection to the people of the Imperium whom they protect. Something depressingly rare for the Space Marines of 40k.
That's true.
Did I mention we have merch?
Did
Stay
you know
tuned
Ian
at
is a
the
Scottish
end to
name?
find
I
out
did!
more.
I had a professor named Ian, but with 2 A's, and his grandfather was Scottish. And he said he got his name from his grandfather.
The Salamanders are one of the most famed Space Marine chapters of the 41st millennium. Born from the tumultuous volcanic world of Nocturne, the Salamanders are the inheritors of their primarch Vulkan's fiery legacy, embodying his tenets of self-reliance, personal trial, and stoic defense of the Imperium. Salamanders see themselves as craftsmen, shaping the future through their conflict, their terrifying appearance belying a noble and protective nature, at least for Warhammer 40k. Since their earliest days as one of the original legions of the first founding, they've endured the galaxy's darkest hours, including betrayal during the Horus Heresy, emerging from near extinction as famed champions of humanity. And since then, their blend of close-range firepower, careful and wise strategic guidance, and exceptional craftsmanship ensures that they fall like their preferred hammers on the Emperor's foes, always mindful of the collateral damage they might cause, and deeply rooted in the traditions taught by their lost Primarch. Something that many other chapters could do well to emulate.
Yeah,
the
listen
history
up.
of the Salamanders chapter is deeply entwined with the saga of the Great Crusade, the story of the Horus Heresy, and the enduring legacy of their Primarch. The Salamanders began as the 18th Legion of the First Founding, created on Terra by the Emperor of Mankind at the dawn of his stellar empire during the Unification Wars. In fact, they were something of a rarity even then. For reasons unknown, the Emperor separated 3 of his legions from the other 17, a grouping that's often designated the Trefoil. The 6th Legion and the 20th Legion were both known to have separate and particularly specialist missions from the start, but it'd be a long time before the unique reason for the 18th Legion's separation would become known. Even so, the Legion was created later and smaller than many of the others, and fought on Terra in those wars. In the early days, the warriors of the 18th were known for their stoicism and indomitable spirit. When the Great Crusade began and the war left Terra for the darkness of the void, they were instrumental in reclaiming worlds for the nascent Imperium. But though they still numbered many thousands of Astartes, they counted themselves amongst the smaller of the Emperor's legions.
The 18th Legion, that would later become known as the Salamanders, along with the 6th and the 20th, comprised this group of proto-legions. This is the trefoil of 3 proto-legions. Was somehow veiled from the rest during their creation. This is the first time I've heard of that. What? Have you seen the Salamander's original color scheme? Their current basic green with black gold is for sure a glow up. I think the last video showed it briefly because they were called the Dragon Lords, right? And then they were renamed to the Salamanders. Yeah, I like the green better. Save the black and yellow for the Lamenters. You know what I'm saying?
And to balance this out, they often engaged in asymmetric warfare, drawing enemies into situations where their numerical disadvantage was negated. Their doctrines favoured a resolute, fight-to-the-bitter-end approach, a trait that cemented their reputation for uncompromising dedication, but could often lead to heavy, costly losses and a certain fatality, a grim sense that they would inevitably continue to do their duty until they all died, something that would eventually be tempered when they rediscovered their primarch. Vulkan was one of the 20 primarchs created by the Emperor of Mankind and then scattered to the 4 corners of the galaxy during a warp breach in his lab complex far under the Himalayan mountains. The pod containing the infant Vulkan arrived on the harsh and rocky world of Nocturne during a time of trial, a period of intense gravitational upheaval caused by the proximity of Nocturne's giant moon, Prometheus, when the ground heaved and split and lava boiled up to the surface. He was found and raised by a blacksmith named Mbel, who became his adoptive father. Nocturne was dangerous, a harsh volcanic death world characterized by ferocious volcanic activity, high levels of natural radiation, and populated by monstrous saurian life forms, but it had a human population. And
okay, that would piss me off. Being so hot there. Would it be humid? Is lava humid? No, right? It'd be dry? Wait. It'd be dry. It'd be dry. Still. Heat? Lava is humid? Oh, humid and hot and sticky? That would piss me off. Warm air holds a lot of water. Where's the water on this planet? It'd be as dry as Arizona. Oh. And I'd be pissed off in Arizona. In the air? Oh. This is a guy. Hey, did you see this guy? Whoa.
And the young Primarch grew amongst them at an astounding rate, becoming stronger, bigger, and learning from his father, eventually becoming the greatest blacksmith and quickest mine in Hesiod, his hometown, all within just 3 years of his discovery. He even discovered and began teaching to the other blacksmiths advanced forging techniques, such was his innate affinity for the craft. However, Nocturne, like many human worlds in the Age of Strife, was frequently raided by Xenos forces, in this case, piratical Eldar from the dark realm of Tomorrow.
The dark
Its
Eldar.
people had developed hiding places to survive the raid. However, in Vulkan's 4th year, he refused to hide, and he inspired his townspeople to stand with him. Leading the defense, he personally killed 100 of the raiders and then drove them back to the webway, inspiring the leaders of Nocturne's 7 largest settlements to swear never to hide from the Xenos again. To celebrate the great victory, a tournament was held, but near the end of the festivities, an unexpected stranger of pale complexion and outlandish clothing arrived and challenged Vulkan, wagering that the loser should serve the victor. The contest they embarked on lasted 8 days, encompassed feats of intellect, strength, craftsmanship, and endurance, but on the final day, the scores were still tied. The last event required them to construct a weapon and hunt the largest salamander they could find in the dangerous peaks overlooking the town.
Ooh,
Vulkan
that's Godzilla.
found and killed a large fire drake, one of the oldest and deadliest of the monsters, but on his return, the volcano he was on erupted, sending him over a cliff. Vulkan struggled, hanging precariously by one hand and clutching on to his prize's tail.
He
And
killed
then the stranger
Godzilla?
arrived, carrying an even larger drake, but seeing Vulkan's distress, he tossed his own drake into a lava flow to create a bridge, saving Vulkan's life. Though Vulkan was declared the victor, he was the only one who returned with a drake, he knelt before the stranger, stating that anyone who valued life over pride was worthy of his service. And of course, at that moment, the stranger revealed himself to be the Emperor of Mankind, thus reuniting Vulkan with the Imperium. Vulkan remained with the Emperor for a few years, receiving tutelage and fighting alongside his new father before being officially reunited with his legion, and that reunion occurred at a critical juncture. The 18th Legion was making a last stand against a massive orc horde on the dead world of Antium, buying time for civilians to flee. Vulkan arrived with 3,000 newly forged reinforcements from Nocturne, striking the orcs like a hammer to his legion's anvil, breaking and wiping them out. At the time, Vulkan was deeply moved by his son's selflessness and their refusal to yield, which had saved countless lives, and he vowed to serve them as much as they served him. Upon their reunion, Vulkan recognized that...
And they got that from him. Even though they didn't know him yet. They were like, this is in my blood, I gotta do this. Oh my goobers. Hello. Helen. Nyaho. That's beautiful. And then they hugged, right? They all hugged. They even hugged the orcs, right? And everybody was friends, right? Cool. Yay.
That fatalistic streak in his legion that needed reshaping. He tempered their costly, sometimes rash engagements with a stoicism and patience, building them into a stronger, more formidable force. His adopted homeworld of Nocturne became theirs, and in his honor, the Legion was renamed the Salamanders, adopting the stylized skull of the large beast he felled as their chapter icon. Vulkan himself was renowned as a great hero of the early Imperium, known for his empathy towards average humans, his craftsmanship at the forge, both in function and in artistry, and his technological prowess.
Hey, idea? Why doesn't the commander be called the Salamander? Vulkan? Hey, when they're done treasure hunting for you, buddy, I have something to let you know. I have something to tell you. Salamander. That's kind of cute. And then they can hug. Okay.
Constructed a great many artifacts and unique weapon systems during the Crusade, and he was responsible for recovering and reviving the Saturnine pattern of Terminator armor and the Saturnine pattern Dreadnought armor, designs he then shared with all the Space Marine legions. He was a huge figure.
He brought the Dreadnoughts back! Oh my gosh, Dreadnought, he brought you back. No bad fish. Why can't I call him the Salamanders? Hey, that sounds cool! Wow, thanks for bringing the Dreadnoughts and the Terminators back, my guy. W. Vulkan. He's a crafter. He's bringing back the cool designs. He loves his sons. He hugs people. Obviously, Vulkan's gonna be my favorite Primarch. I think he's in the lead. Who was my favorite Primarch? I knew I would like Vulkan. I don't think I had a favorite Primarch beforehand. Okay.
In emerald green plate and drake scale armor, one of the largest and physically strongest of all the Primarchs, capable of overturning Space Marine battle tanks with his bare hands. While he was never the most gregarious of the Primarchs, he was considered a great friend by many of his brothers, though it was said that his strength was so great that during sparring he deliberately held back to avoid harming them. The Salamanders fought as important contingents of many expeditionary fleets during
He
the
was a
Great
good
Crusade,
big
liberating
brother.
worlds and fighting alongside
Wait.
other Legionnaires Astartes.
If he's the 18th, is he the little brother? Wait. Are the numbers related to their age? Is Vulkan little bro? Well, not littlest bro. Vulkan is great, but I stay with Gilliman as my fave. Big E loves the blueberries. I had a feeling you were gonna like Vulkan, and who doesn't love Big Papa Vulkan? Hey, I knew it too, and I think AJ was the one who was like, you're gonna like the space sharks, you're gonna like Vulkan, you're gonna like the salamanders. AJ knows what's up. Shout out AJ. They were all created at the same time. Okay, so he's not little bro. He's just bro. There is no little bro. Just because he's the 18th doesn't mean he's a little bro. Got it. Okay, he's just bro. Heard. Okay, bro.
And the Imperial Army. Their dedication to the Emperor's vision and their civil treatment of defeated human populations were notable.
Wait. The lion is big bro? Lion is big bro, and everyone else is little bro. So Vulkan is little bro. He's little bro, and then big bro lion. Lionel. Okay. It hurts my heart when you watch the full Horus Heresy breakdown. Don't worry. I'll get there. Should I watch the Horus Heresy first and then go into the Traitor Legions? No, because you guys also want me to learn about Sanguinius, Riri's husband. There's so much to do, guys. Okay, members and YouTube channel members and subbies, you guys can have a conversation about what we do next, okay? I don't want to think. I don't want to be thinking. You guys do that for me.
Often putting them at odds with more ruthless legions. This compassionate policy was exemplified during the reconquest of Karatan, where Vulkan clashed with Conrad Kurz of the Night Lords over his brutal tactics, especially after Kurz's legion killed an entire city's inhabitants to sow fear, a confrontation that deeply affected Vulkan in the years to come. And here's a good point to say that if you want to find out more about the Great Crusade exploits of the 18th Legion, I have a video just here that tells you all about that.
Oh,
the Emperor's vision of a united galaxy was, of course, shattered by the Horus Heresy. When Horus broke faith, Vulkan's Salamanders were a part of the first reprisal fleet, sent to bring the War Master to justice. Vulkan urged restraint and fleet cohesion, but his wisdom was ignored by Ferrus Manus, who had overall command. Along with his Iron Hands and the Raven Guard, the Salamanders formed the first wave of attack on Istvan V, unknowingly entering into a trap. They were mercilessly bombarded by the traitors while trying to secure a beachhead in the Urgal Depression before 4 other legions in the second wave revealed their treachery and unleashed their own firepower. Caught between 8 traitor legions, the Salamanders and their allies were almost wiped out in what became known as the Drop Site Massacre. The survival of any loyalist Astartes from Istvan V was miraculous. Vulkan found himself surrounded by hundreds of Iron Warriors and Night Lords fighting to what he believed was his death, but his true nature and the possible reason for his legion's membership of that trefoil was to be revealed soon after.
Don't worry.
Vulkan was taken prisoner by Conrad Kurz, Primarch of the Night Lords, who spent months trying to break Vulkan's spirit and kill him.
Okay, we heard about
but
this one.
But this proved impossible as,
because you
like
can't break
Emperor,
me.
Vulkan was
I'll
a
forget. My
perpetual
ADHD brain
and
will forget.
immortal human. Kurz subjected Vulkan to horrific torments, repeatedly beheading him, dismembering him, eviscerating him, shooting him at close range.
Okay,
even
we didn't hear about
exposing him
that.
to the void. And each time, Vulkan's body would regenerate completely, much to Kurz's fury.
They were shooting
After
him?
months of this, Vulkan would eventually
That's crazy.
escape his confinement, teleporting into space above the Ultramarines planet of Macragge, but his torturous journey wouldn't end there. The Primarch himself was mentally broken, violent and incoherent, and he died again during a convoluted battle soon after. Placed in a stasis capsule, the few Salamanders who'd made it to Macragge led an expedition to return Vulkan's body to Nocturne, where he was finally restored during an ordeal on Mount Deathfire. His actions for the rest of the conflict were limited. The Salamanders fought as part of the Shattered Legions, harrying Horus's forces as they travelled towards Terra, and Vulkan himself made it back, stationed by the Golden Throne as its last guardian and fighting his brother Magnus in the Webway. But it wasn't until the days of the Scouring that the Salamanders would be reorganised and fight together once again. In the aftermath of the Horus Heresy, the Salamanders' Legion was severely depleted, with only a few hundred survivors. During the Great Scouring, the wave of vengeance that followed Horus's defeat, the Salamanders took part in relatively few actions due to those depleted numbers. However, Vulkan was particularly enraged by the horrors inflicted upon Terra's population by the Emperor's Children Legion, particularly the actions of the infamous apothecary turned gene torturer Fabius Bile, who had harvested the people for stimulants and drugs. Vulkan vowed to bring Bile to justice, and the Salamander's fleet chased Bile's ship across the galaxy, eventually catching up with him on Arden 9, but Bile once again escaped their clutches, his ship disappearing into a vortex of sickly light, leaving a tear in reality. Vulkan ordered the local area searched for any fragments that could lead to Bile, but it was to no avail, and sometime after that, Vulkan chose to leave the Salamanders, claiming he would return in the end times at their moment of greatest need. Vulkan did reappear again. During the War of the Beast, 1500 years later, he single-handedly defended the Imperial world of Caldera from a massive Orc invasion, briefly returned to Terra and took command of the Imperium, and then led a crusade to Ullanor, the Beast's homeworld, where he confronted the Beast and killed the Orc war leader in a massive explosion, and once again he disappeared, presumed dead, but the Salamanders still hunt for him in the 41st millennium, believing he'll one day return as he
can't
promised.
die.
Since then, the Salamanders have continued to
He's
operate as one of the
perpetual.
many chapters of Adeptus Astartes stationed around the galaxy. Vulkan was an enthusiastic supporter of Guilliman's reforms that broke up the old legions, and it was relatively simple to rechristen the Salamanders' Legion as a chapter owing to their massive losses. Little more than 1,000 of them remained. They were the only loyalist legion reformed into a chapter who did not create any successors during the second founding. Those successor chapters have been created from their line in other foundings since then. When the Salamanders described themselves as
That's pretty big, right? They were like, hey, we stay the Salamanders. That's huge. We Salamand forever. Never mind.
Speaks not only to their culture and origins, but also to the profound influence of their volcanic homeworld, Nocturne, which has shaped the chapter over the millennia. Nocturne is a world aflame, a cauldron of fiery tempests, strung with millions of interlinked volcanoes. Its surface is rugged and mountainous, as malleable and ever-changing a landscape as could be, scarred by lava channels and bubbling calderas. It's a planet of dark mountains, black sand plains, and sulphurous seas. The planet is in fact so volcanically active that it's said it never experiences true darkness. As it rotates away from its star, volcanic eruptions, molten ejecta, and jets of burning gas illuminate radioactive ash clouds.
Yeah, that would
and
piss
light
me
up
off.
the night sky. Nocturne also exhibits high levels of natural radiation. While the
Mordor
origin
as
of
a
this
planet?
radiation is unknown, its interaction with the people of the planet is quite notable, and it's sometimes referred to by Salamanders apothecaries as the Furnace Invisible. Nocturne is officially classified as a death world, not just for its inimical conditions, but also for the monstrous predators that stalk its flatlands and haunt its depths. Most infamous among...
Wait, there's gotta be cute salamanders too, right? These are the big old salamanders that are like the grandpa salamanders, or where are the baby ones? There has to be cute little guys running around, no? Hello? We call them geckos? Nah, bigger than a gecko. Like, bigger than a monitor lizard, you know? Like, little, like, cow-sized dragons. Cute. Cute. Also, like, why are we not riding them? Hello? Lemonade can ride on his planet's animals. And we got bikes. We got horses. Why can't we train? How to train your dragon? How to train your salamander? Hello? Vulkan, come back. Vulkan, I have two suggestions. The first, Salacommander. The second, how to train your salamander and ride them and wield them into battle. That's why he's disappearing. He wants you guys to train the salamanders. Wait, that would be goated. Do they fly? They're dragon-ish, but they're salamanders. So they're like lizard-ish, right? They're drakes. Do drakes fly? Dang, we're the dragon nerds. Dragon nerds, I need you. It's not exactly feasible to move them around between planets. Oh, heard. They're more worm, if anything. Heard. But don't the space sharks have a megalodon on their ship? If they can move a megalodon, why can't we be moving our little salamanders? No, not little. Why can't we be moving our big guys around? They cannot be as big as a megalodon, right? I'm just saying, hey, I'm not here to think about the logistics. I'm just here to make the big plans. Vulkan, listen to me. That's the space sharks. Fuel ain't cheap in the Imperium. Okay, well, this planet looks like it has a lot of coal. No? It is mostly volcano. No? Come on, I think we can make something work.
These are giant reptilian beasts, Nocturne's original salamanders, that claim all the highest ridges. These are the beasts that the chapter took its name from and adopted as its icon. However, despite all that, Nocturne itself presents an even greater test for its inhabitants, the time of trial. This period occurs once every Nocturnian year, which is 15 Terran years.
Okay,
When Nocturne
once every 15
and its
years.
massive, oversized moon, Prometheus, share a complex and esoteric orbit that brings them so close, the gravitic battle threatens to tear Nocturne apart.
Oh!
During this global cataclysm,
Okay.
seismic ruptures tear through the land masses, immense thunderheads boil in the skies, and lightning ravages the plains, creating pools of black glass.
Literally. Hell. What? Hello, once every 15 years, the planet just tries to split itself apart and there's thunder and lightning and lava and earthquakes? What? Would ride dragon that could be corrupted by chaos any moment. I would. I mean, hey. Hello, Sushi. Do not fry me. The Thunderdome, if you will. The crazy. Once every 15 years. See, I'm taking a nice little vacation every 15 years. Visit Terra. Ride my little salamander dragon around. Salamander worm. Yeah, but listening. Take my little salamander worm out for a walk on Terra. Every 15 years. Welcome to a death world. I'm out of here. Black glass. Oceans of black glass. Kind of sounds pretty. You know what? Not gonna lie. The thunder of it all, if it wasn't sweltering hot, I'm on board for the thunder of it all. The thunder and the lightning, very, very frightening. I'm on board. It won't fit on the sidewalk. Hello, we are in space. There is no space sidewalk.
The planet's radiation fluctuates rapidly, becoming deadly even to its acclimatized native people, and thousands of the volcanoes erupt in concert. The Salamanders view this devastation as a trial for both the planet and themselves, believing their world emerges stronger after each cycle, cooling in the void as Prometheus finally retreats. And despite the devastation, the time of trial brings significant benefits. New veins of ore and minerals are revealed, and the world's meager soils are enriched with nutrients. Many Nocturnians rely on the time of trial for survival. Miners access fresh materials, while metalworkers and jewelsmiths craft precious objects from newfound seams.
Okay, fair.
The Adeptus Mechanicus is known to pay handsomely for these rare deposits, making trade contacts with the Salamanders viciously contested by nearby Forge Worlds. The people of Nocturne are incredibly hardy, accustomed to surviving the high radiation and the monstrous saurian life form.
Hardy, but they still have not adapted towards the trial era? Hello? Let's adapt. Let's evolve. Vulkan, come back here. Third idea. Let's evolve. Thoughts? Nocturne civilian. Yeah, the planet has earthquakes and tsunamis of lava, but hey, we still love each other. Yay! We love each other. Yay, money! Hey, I know we all almost died on this planet and the whole planet almost blew up, but we didn't, and now we have some new things to make money and trade with. Hee hee. Oh my goodness. I hate that. Go on, Ian.
hardy, accustomed to surviving the high radiation and the monstrous saurian life forms. Their culture and values were instilled in Vulkan during his youth and, in turn, passed down to his legion. And to this day, the Salamanders and their human cohabitants consider themselves two parts of a single people, linked by ties of blood, adversity, and endurance. This close bond explains why the Salamanders hold many human values in high esteem, certainly more than other Space Marines who tend to have distanced themselves from those or forgotten what they were. The ancient shaman of the people of Nocturne long ago discovered islands of stability that could withstand the time of trials. These sacred geological
Islands of
areas
stability.
allowed for the establishment
Put me
of
there.
7 large settlements known as sanctuary cities, originally used as tribal meeting points, scattered bastions that sheltered the populace. The sanctuary cities include Epimethus, Themis, Heliosa.
Originally used as tribal meeting points. Are we saying we colonized the safe and sacred tribal lands to make sanctuary cities? Is that what we're saying? Oh no. Oh no. You know what? Let's pretend he didn't say that.
Skarok, Clymene, and Hesiod, Vulkan's hometown, plus one other.
Wait, run it back again.
Cities include Epimethus,
Themis,
Heliosa,
Skarok,
Clymene, and Hesiod.
Chimney. What do you say?
Themis, Heliosa, Skarok, Clymene.
Clymene, not chimney.
Hesiod, Vulkan's hometown.
Hesiod.
Plus one other that hasn't been detailed yet and we don't know the name of. In time, these meeting points became fortified cities protected by rocky walls and finely crafted gates, now ringed with void shields to protect them from the planet's harsh environment. Unlike many chapters, the Salamanders...
And can we live there? Is it still open to the public? We didn't steal it, right? We made it better and we continue to welcome people in because that is a Salamander way, right? Yeah, there's no way they stole it. They colonized it and they refused to let people in. There's no way. Unless you're a Dark Eldar, then get the frick out of here. Get out of my city. Okay.
Do not remain aloof from their homeworld's human population. When not at war or engaged in training and rituals, most Salamander warriors live amongst the people of Nocturne. The Space Marines act as elders in the sanctuary cities, providing guidance and wisdom and mentoring prospective novitiates. Mindful of Vulkan's compassion, they see this leadership as an extension of their duties to the Imperium, learning humility and understanding by living amongst and shepherding their people. Within each of the sanctuary cities, the chapter maintains a chapter bastion, a smaller version of a full fortress monastery, with its own gymnasia, reclusiam, meditation cells and other facilities to support the aspirants that train there and garrisoned members of the chapter that are assigned to the homeworld. Beneath each is a forge and a great central anvil where the Salamanders can practice their craft. And at the
Okay. No. It sounds good. I was getting a little pessimistic, but it sounds like it was a good thing. Tribal was used in reference to when Nocturne decided to went primitive. Okay, heard. We weren't stealing from indigenous people here. No. We were working alongside them and then also living with them. Heard. The weapon you carry today is as much a part of your squad, your company, as the warriors who stand shoulder to shoulder with you in the crucible of battle. Honor its victories, maintain its warrior spirit, dedicate oaths of brotherhood to its name. The weapon you carry today has been forged in fire as you have. It has been crafted with consummate skill, has endured the anvil of war, and has thrown down the Emperor's enemies as you have. The weapon you carry today is feared by our foes, for it is a harbinger of death, as you are. Hey! You're a harbinger of death. But in a cute and friendly way. Woo!
The top, a vault of remembrance, a finely carved chamber in which rites of remembrance are carried out for lost battle brothers. Outside the sanctuary cities, the planet's divided into 9 settled realms, mostly inhabited.
Wait, should I put that in my bio? Harbinger of death, but in a cute and friendly way? Merch? Anyways.
Inhabited by transient nomads who travel between the peaks and mountains in search of ore seams, but the spiritual center of the planet is the famed Mount Deathfire, the largest volcano.
Of course it's called Mount Deathfire.
And a sacred place to its people. Mount Deathfire is home to the largest salamander reptiles, known as fire drakes. It was here that Vulkan had his legendary contest with the Emperor, and underneath it, carved by the legendary master of the Forge Tekel under the tuition of Vulkan, is the Pyreum, a vast chamber of volcanic rock where the bodies of slain Salamanders' marines are returned to the fire of the world. Although
Oh,
Nocturne is the Salamander's home planet, the chapter's actual fortress monastery
wait!
is
They're returned to the fire of the world just like that salamander that the Emperor tossed in to save Vulkan with. And you cutely tee. Yes, exactly. Cute. Aw, their theming is so on point.
based on Prometheus. Prometheus is denser and far less vulnerable to the time of trial than its malleable parent world, making it an ideal stronghold. It's also airless and void of native inhabitants. Prometheus serves as the home to the Salamanders chapter command and their well-stocked armory, along with extensive bastions, weapon arrays, and astropathic spires. The fortress monastery is a sprawling and impregnable
They separate
edifice.
it from the
Below
people.
ground, miles of hallways and sconce-lit chambers echo with the steps of ceramite boots, where chapter serfs and bondsmen, uniquely adapted native Nocturnians, endure the artificially high temperatures within. Many private cells and forbidden courts within the monastery are reserved solely for the Marines, serving as places of meditation or private ceremony, barely lit by the ruddy glow of braziers with oppressively hot atmospheres. Orbital docks and repair stations surround the monastery, harboring the chapter's fleet.
That's another change that I would have for Vulkan. Can we blast some AC in here? Hello? Why are we artificially making it hotter inside? Come on. Blast that AC, Vulkan. Please.
Atmospheres. Orbital docks and repair stations surround the monastery, harboring the chapter's fleet of strike cruisers and battle barges. The jewels of this are two legendary artifacts created by Vulkan himself: the Forge ship, Chalice of Fire, and the defense laser known as the Eye of Vulkan. The Chalice of Fire is a massive manufacturing vessel that produces many of the Salamander's unique pieces of technology, viewed with envy and acquisitive intent by the Adeptus Mechanicus, and in contrast, the Eye of Vulkan is an immense destructive laser array, utilizing barely understood power sources and lensing that's now beyond replication by the Masters of the Forge. Finally, at the center of the fortress is the Salamander's Armory, located miles deep within the bedrock of the
Salamarmory.
This is the domain of their tech marines, and it's a labyrinth of cells, alcoves, voids, and cramped networks of superheated techno-arcana, dangerous and claustrophobic even for specially adapted servitors that maintain it. Within those chambers, the tech marines maintain the chapter's machinery. While the tech marines themselves are not particularly more numerous than in other chapters, their efforts are regularly supported by other battle brothers, as many Salamanders warriors maintain a personal anvil and their own tools for repairing and embellishing their own war gear. This allows the tech marines to focus on larger war machines and the creation of advanced technological artifacts. Their armory is commanded by a triumvirate of Masters of the Forge, who direct the issuing of vehicles and artillery to all the different strike forces. The collective body of...
Wait, you can DIY your own weapons is what I'm hearing? Salamanders, papa. Not gonna lie, I like the Sallies, but I think the Salamanders are up there with having some of the worst recruitments among most or all. Why? They're heat maxing. True. Okay, they want to be hot and sweaty. Okay. To nobody's surprise, the Salamanders chapter serfs are probably the best looked after of any Space Marine chapter. Yep, I'm not surprised. We take care of our people, and we give them the hot and sweaty heat that they want, apparently. And we let them craft their own stuff because the tech marines are busy doing other things. Hey, we carry our own weight here. Hot, sticky, sweaty weight.
Belief and wisdom by which the Salamanders live is known as the Promethean cult, set down by Vulkan around the time of the Horus Heresy. The Promethean cult's teachings are preserved in various forms.
Let us read. Set down first as the teachings of the primarch Vulkan in written form and as ritual practice, the Promethean cult formed a body of doctrine that codified and promoted the spirit and culture the primarch desired for his legion. A work of both clear vision and deep allegory, it drew both upon ancient Terran philosophical and martial thought and the rich culture and mythic history of Nocturne on which Vulkan had been raised. Core to its tenets was the conviction that the Legion Astartes had been created to fulfill a single and irrevocable purpose, the protection and liberation of all humanity, and that they were each and every one a savage weapon given physical and spiritual form to the single end. Okay, yup, makes sense. We're here to protect and liberate humans. We are their sword, we are their shield, we are their wind, we are their waves. We are their X, we are their Y. As living weapons, they were shaped and honed on the anvil of destruction and by the hammer of war. The hammer of war, just as a blade is shaped in the fires of the forge to its perfect edge. The teachings of the cult emphasize self-reliance, loyalty, duty, patience, awareness, self-sacrifice, and above all, self-discipline and endurance. And drawing from Nocturne's culture of craft and trial, fire as a dual symbol of creation and destruction was the cult's symbol and sign, as were the emblems of the anvil and the hammer. Ooh, fire is a symbol of creation and destruction. Hey, that's cute. Proceeding.
Around the time of the Horus Heresy, the Promethean cult's teachings are preserved in various forms, including allegorical stories of the Emperor and Vulkan, tales of the Primarch's deeds, and ancient wisdom set down by chapter luminaries, and it emphasizes self-reliance, loyalty, duty, patience, self-discipline, and above all, endurance. Central to this cult is the symbolic role of fire, viewed as both a creator and a destroyer.
Fire.
Fire is seen
Hey,
as
the
a
Salamanders
means of
are fire.
purification and renewal, a belief passed down from Vulkan himself. Aspirants learning the ways of the Salamanders must toil in the forge, learning the art of the hammer, another item of deep spiritual significance. Each Salamander is taught to craft and maintain their own arms and armor, which is seen as fostering patience and determination. Warriors of the chapter are expected to refine those skills as artisans throughout their service, studying the ways of the smith, of fire and earth. Salamander's equipment is thus commonly maintained and ornamented to an incredibly high standard. The Promethean cult also places great emphasis on the forging of oneself. Implacable determination and endurance are paramount virtues. The chapter's chaplains teach that no objective worth obtaining is easily taken, and that hardship and adversity are inevitable ingredients in a warrior's life. Standing one's ground no matter the odds, advancing into the fiercest engagements, and weathering the tempest are held up as virtues that all salamanders should embody. Trials of mind and of body are frequent and recurring themes in Nocturnian culture, and that includes ritualistic practices like branding, scarring, and trials by fire, which further enhance their renowned resistance to heat. Amongst the sacred objects and writings of the Promethean cult, few are as important as the Tome of Fire. This isn't merely a single book, but an enormous archive of diverse objects shaped by Vulkan's peerless craftsmanship. The collection includes written works such as books made of compressed drakeskin, scrolls of sheet metal fine as silk, and ancient data slates displaying unknown runes. The Salamanders refer to all these items as texts of the tome, believing each contains messages and hidden writings even when there's no script visible. The chapter's Forge Father is entrusted with the responsibility of those items. His primary task is to search within the tome for clues regarding the location of the 9 artifacts of Vulkan, 4 of which still remain lost across the galaxy. 2 of them, the Eye of Vulkan and the Chalice of Fire, are the defense laser and forge ship that are stationed at the monastery on Prometheus. The Spear of Vulkan, the Gauntlet of the Forge, and Kazari's Mantle, a drake-scale cloak, are all items that have been found and are currently carried by the Forge Father as he goes on his quest. And the Engine of Woes, the Obsidian Chariot, the Unbound Flame, and the Song of Entropy are all as yet undiscovered, waiting to be found by a future Forge Father. Each succeeding Forge Father examines these texts anew, seeking patterns in new arrangements or from untried angles, knowing that Vulkan had the power to craft objects that would react only in specific places or at certain junctures. Thus, an object on an undisturbed shelf might activate and reveal its secrets only when the correct alignment occurs.
He's a puzzler!
When all 9 artifacts are gathered together, Vulkan will return. As a first founding chapter, the Salamander's gene seed originated from one of the original 20 lines created by the Emperor. However, the unique environmental conditions of Nocturne have a profound and specific interaction with this genetic heritage. The erratic gravitational and radioactive forces of Nocturne are thought to have subtly reshaped the Legion's gene seed in strange ways. This interaction manifests most visibly in the Salamander's physical characteristics. The warriors of the chapter are exceptionally large, physically imposing, and powerfully built, often seen as a direct inheritance from Vulkan. Their skin
Bigger than
is
regular
charcoal black,
Space
and their
Marines.
eyes are a strikingly similar shade except for the centers, which are red and glow like lit coals. This menacing appearance can be unsettling even to hardened warriors, but despite facing the occasional denunciation due to their obvious mutation, the Salamanders have never shied away from their heritage or hidden their features, seeing them as a reflection of the physical attributes of noble Vulkan. And while this demonic appearance, ebon skin and glowing red eyes, often stands in stark contrast to their demeanour, the chapter has pragmatically learned to wield it as a tool anyway, terrifying more than one nascent rebellion into submission without resorting to any actual violence, simply by an unhelmed salamander advancing on conspiring ringleaders. Also notable is their resistance to heat and fire, which enables them to stride through roaring infernos, endure ritualistic carrying of red-hot metal, or walk barefoot upon burning coals.
See, wasn't I saying this in Space Marine 2? They need to be fireproof. And the Salamanders took that to heart, and they were like, we're fireproof. Easy. Done. Hello? Vulkan's listening to me. Also, check out this drip, bro. Sheesh. Kind of fire. Kind of fire. Thank you for watering the fish and watering the chat. Hayden, guys, take a drink of water and listen to Ian.
A more subtle, yet crucial inheritance from Vulkan's genetic legacy is the Salamander's visual sensitivity to infrared emissions, which they call firesight. This trait develops in novitiates, and it's considered a gift from the primarch. It's narrowly focused towards very particular heat signatures, so the Marines still use the far superior power armor auto-senses and auspexes in battle, but firesight has been developed to serve a practical chapter-specific purpose. Millennia ago, the Salamanders perfected a material that generates minute heat pulses at these specific detectable signatures. This material is layered into the dermis of their ceramite, woven into robes and standards, and applied to weapon casings and tanks, and when connected to power, it generates enough heat to be seen by salamanders but remain invisible to outsiders. To outsiders, their war gear is beautifully crafted, but to the salamanders, it's much more. A system of luminous iconography, allowing for sub-levels of strategic designation or hidden tactical markings. As a chapter, the salamanders are renowned for their careful, considered approach to warfare, and once they're committed to a cause, their wisdom and determination are unwavering. They're characterized as neither quick to anger nor prone to sow destruction without due judgment. However, once they commit to battle, their wrath becomes unstoppable. Their tactical doctrines heavily emphasize the application of overwhelming close-ranged firepower. They excel in short-range firefights where the reek of Promethean accompanies the destruction of even the fiercest enemies. Their expertise with flame and melter weapons is unsurpassed and rightly feared through the galaxy, and they also make extensive use of thunderhammers, a symbol of the Forge. This allows them to be particularly effective against enemy fortifications and defenses, often reducing the most dug-in adversaries to cinders. As you might expect, the Salamanders possess one of the most advanced armories in the Imperium, capable of maintaining the full suite of Astartes war gear, including ancient Space Marine Legion war machines. They maintain a large array of tanks, transports, and dreadnoughts. However, their reliance on solid endurance and dependable infantry often means they field fewer rapid reaction units compared to other chapters, leading to a relatively rarer deployment of fast-moving stuff like bikes and land speeders. The Salamanders adhere to many of the organizational tenets of the Codex Astartes, like many Space Marine chapters, but they also retain some unique structures that reflect their legacy as a legion. The Salamanders wear green armor, a hue that has varied from deep dark green to jade to bright emerald over the millennia. Their primary chapter icon is the stylized skull of the salamander, and their heraldry frequently features flame, hammer, and drake icons, central to their beliefs. In addition to these, Battle Brothers bear brands of honor, and many celebrated heroes wear cloaks and mantlets forged from drake skin. Individual squads often adapt common motifs from chapter lore, from Nocturnian myths, or from the Codex Astartes for their squad markings, commemorating victories, honouring the fallen, or celebrating bonds forged with allies. Broadly, the Salamanders chapter follows the Codex Astartes in squad organisation, but their overall structure is a bit different. Unlike most Codex-compliant chapters, they're organised into 7 companies rather than 10. Each
Oh.
of these companies is slightly oversized, comprising 12 squads instead of 10, a design choice to better withstand the additional pressures the chapter often face in war. The 7-company structure is a direct throwback to the original organization of the Salamanders Legion, which Vulkan divided into 7 great houses to honor the ancient tribes of Nocturne. To this day, each of the 7 companies maintains ceremonial ties to a specific sanctuary city and keeps their barracks within that city. Not only does that
Oh.
arrangement foster a direct connection between the chapter and the people, it also cultivates a certain amount of competition amongst the companies, pushing Battle Brothers to greater heights of achievement while instilling the humility and understanding that the chapter are known for.
Wait, I
the
love
command structure
that.
of the Salamanders was formalized after Vulkan's disappearance. The captain of the first company holds the ceremonial honorific of Regent of Prometheus and serves as the chapter master. This title reflects the Salamanders' belief that Vulkan
The
will one day return, and the
Salamander.
chapter master is merely a steward until then. Their wider ruling body is called the Pantheon Council, comprised of the 7 company captains and other high-ranking officers. This council directs the chapter, organizes strike forces, and appoints senior leaders like the Forge Father. Although councillors often speak freely, the chapter master is the one to make all final decisions. Though in recent years, due to the Great Rift's disruptions, full council gatherings have become quite rare, leading the current chapter master to a more solitary rule, often with his first company lieutenants assuming broader command. That first company are known as the Fire Drakes, and they embody the chapter's soul and comprise its most experienced and accomplished warriors. They're seen as exemplars of what it means to be a son of Vulkan, not just for their lethality in combat, but also for their profound wisdom, stoic endurance, and deep reserves of strength. The Fire Drakes are a tempered mix of veteran units, but the chapter maintains an unusually large store of tactical dreadnought armor, making Terminator squads very common, wading through firestorms, swinging their immense thunderhammers, like the original Fire Drakes in Vulkan's bodyguard. Unique amongst all the companies, the Fire Drakes do not maintain any barracks on Nocturne, but dwell solely in the fortress monastery on Prometheus, descending to the planet only for important rituals. This position means they play an active role in chapter command, directing training and coordinating security, thus honing their leadership skills. They're highly valued for their tactical advice when they're attached to larger strike forces, and this all prepares them for their future roles as veteran sergeants, officers, or masters of Salamander's warships. The company commander is Chapter Master Tushan, bearing the title Regent of
Salamander
Prometheus. He's responsible
Tushan.
for ensuring Vulkan's legacy endures, and the Fire Drakes serve as his honor guard and as his equerries, presenting the chapter at its best to anyone who might visit Prometheus. Also, nominally part of the first company is the Forge Father, currently Vulkan Hestan. Any Forge Father must possess a versatile strategic mind, unassailable determination, and immense resilience to endure a quest that may last their entire life. Hestan was formerly the captain of the 4th company, and he cast off his forename to proudly bear Vulkan's name as part of the rituals. Guided by clues in the Tome of Fire, he actively searches for the 4 remaining artifacts, however difficult that might be since the spread of the Great Rift, and his duties allow him to requisition forces and assets from across the chapter. The 2nd, 3rd, and 4th companies are designated battle companies, the primary fighting component of the chapter. The 2nd company are known as the Defenders of Nocturne. They're perhaps the most widely recognized symbol of the Salamanders chapter due to their profound commitment to protecting the weak and their selfless heroism. While detractors might scorn their focus on saving civilians, the 2nd company views their actions pragmatically, ensuring the survival of vital skills needed to allow the Imperium to continue. Under their commander, Nkelm, the Master of the Watch, the Defenders of Nocturne operate in a remarkably open manner. They're often the first chapter to extend diplomatic overtures, and unlike others who fight on their own terms, the 2nd company readily cooperates with other Imperial forces, amplifying their allies' abilities by understanding how best to utilize the assets. A notable example is the war in
They're
the
team
Karsus sector,
players.
where Captain Nkelm healed the rift between the various Astra Militarum regiments and the Tech Priests of Mars. The 3rd company, known as the Pyroclasts, is a battle company that lives up to that epithet as fiery angels of death, excelling in purging the enemy with flame. This title is inherited from the old Salamanders Legion, where the Pyroclasts were the 18th Legion's Destroyer Corps. Unlike other Legion Destroyer Corps, they focused exclusively on flame-based weapons, as Vulkan saw fire as a means of purifying and renewing, rather than just tainting the ground, as many other destroyer-grade weapons did. Commanded
Flame
by Captain
on.
Adrax Agatoni, the Pyroclasts are superbly equipped for frontline siegecraft, boarding actions, and hive cleansings. They use searing waves of fire to scour garrisons. They're also adept at using subtle flame to tactically corral enemies. They're also
Ooh.
unyielding towards cowards and sluggards, and their retribution in those cases is ruthless. Since the opening of the Great Rift, their skills have been in high demand for purging chaos cults, infected forge worlds, and Xenos infestations. While adhering to the Promethean cult's teachings of protecting the weak, they also embody Vulkan's pragmatism, understanding that innocent lives must sometimes fall for the Imperium's greater good, and that heavy burden stays with them, leading to a shared sorrow amongst all Salamanders veterans who serve with the Pyroclasts. Captain Agatoni is quite a unique figure, considered by some to be the most akin to Vulkan of any Salamander in centuries due to his stability, consideration, and relentless ferocity once roused. A Primaris Space Marine, his merciless pragmatism is evident in a very simple creed: whatever must be done for the Imperium's good, no matter how callous, he will see it through. He possesses an unshakable moral certitude, but Agatoni is also vigilant that this way of thinking is not perverted like it so often has been, swearing that the Third Company will never become tools of tyrants. The Fourth Company, known as the Branded, often serves as the first battle company new Salamanders will experience. Assignment to this company signifies recognition of a battle brother's expertise and the chapter's faith in their abilities. The ceremonies that accompany that elevation include a series of binding vows made to the chapter, and those pledges are often seared directly into the warrior's flesh as a permanent expression of their duty, making the taking of oaths an intrinsic aspect of the Fourth Company's character. They see themselves as the most dedicated to the chapter's Promethean cult, and their ranks are filled with brander priests, chapter serfs who attend to their Astartes masters, burning
they
pledges
really
into their
C-worded.
skin with intricately
Ouchie
crafted
tattoos.
ancient
Owie.
branding irons. These marks record vows to uphold the Promethean cult.
Wait, but it doesn't hurt because fire doesn't hurt them, right? Fire can't burn the dragon or whatever, right?
Values, vanquish specific enemies, or endure trials of mind and body. While Salamanders often instruct their brander priests to mark them before battle, the Fourth Company also engages in extensive scarification, bordering on an obsession, with some covering almost their entire bodies in brands and scars, save for their face, which is reserved
not
for the
the
First
face.
Company veterans. Wherever possible, the Fourth Company's strike forces endeavour to engage the enemy in close assault and short-range firefights so that the warriors of the Branded can be sure of fulfilling the vows upon their skin. Predictably, the Fourth Company maintains especially close links with the chapter's Reclusiam. The Fifth Company, known as the Drake Hunters, is one of the Salamander's two reserve companies. Their vital responsibility is to reinforce the strike forces of the three battle companies, not through logistical transfers of personnel per se, but through the direct support of battle company actions across the galaxy. They fight in a mix of battle line and fire support roles, engaging foes both at mid-range and long range. As the final rite of their induction, all Salamander's Marines must hunt and slay one of Nocturne's deadly reptilian salamanders.
What?
The Drake Hunters elevate this practice to an art form, viewing the striding war engines and hulking alien horrors of the battlefield as an extension of those youthful hunts.
Are we not going to run out of salamanders? Isn't there like 7,000? 10,000? How many salamanders are there? Chill, they be Evan. They breed the... Okay. Yeah, but don't... I assume they're going to want big ones and you need them to grow old to be big. They're out here killing babies. Someone's like, I just became a salamander. Let me kill this 2-foot little freaking gecko. And look at me. I'm a salamander. Nyaho, Sir Baron T, welcome in.
Sir_Baron_T just swam in.
What the heck? We're out here killing lizards. They didn't say how big it has to be. They just said, hey, go out there and kill a salamander, right? I just crack an egg open and be like, hey, got one. They've come close to extinction many times. Oh my gosh. Usually it's like 20 years in Warhammer lore for like 1 year of hours. Wait. We can't have them be extinct. Hello, we need a salamander sanctuary. Vulkan! I propose a salamander sanctuary. We gotta do it like protected fishing. The breeders are not allowed to be killed. If they are over a certain length or under a certain length, they cannot be killed. Hello? Put me in charge of that. I will be the Salacommander of making sure the salamanders grow up. I assume they'd be eating their fair share of the native humans too. I mean, what's that got to do with me? Hey, what's that got to do with us? Hey. And that's their fault.
Rather than static defense, 5th Company Salamanders advance alongside battle tanks and weapons platforms dedicated to tracking down their mighty prey. Their current commander, Captain Mulkabar, also the Master of Rights, has furthered the Drake Hunter's reputation for fearlessness. Grim and remorseless, his strategic vocabulary has little room for subterfuge or infiltration, and he leads his warriors steadily into the open furnace of battle, bearing down on prey with calculated intimidation. The 6th Company, known as the Flamehammers, is the other reserve company. While tempered by a patient sort of wisdom, Salamanders are also capable of sudden, shocking assaults, and the Flamehammers are there to temper the chapter's warriors, many of whom are newly raised from the Scout Battalion. Comprising a large number of fire support squads and several battle line squads, the Flamehammers regularly speed into battle in fast-moving transport vehicles or descend into the thick of fighting
they got
in
trucks.
drop pods. This channels those headstrong desires for immediate action, while their war gear and support responsibilities reinforce the need for restraint and calm. They're commanded by Captain Nea Irvin, the chapter's master of relics. And finally, the 7th Company, known as the Sons of Nocturne, serve as the chapter's scout company. Their missions include infiltration, intelligence gathering, and assassination operations, but their actions are often placed to ensure that the often smaller numbers of salamanders deployed to a theatre are not pitted against unknown foes, maximizing the strength of the main force. The 7th Company includes 12 squads of Vanguard Space Marines, experienced warriors in various patterns of Mark 10 Phobos armor, who cause disruption to neutralize enemy long-range firepower. The remaining warriors are neophytes in either scout squads or scout bike squads, typically
they got
to
bikes!
larger strike forces under experienced sergeants. They're commanded by the Master of Recruits, Captain Solbarkan. He oversees neophyte maturation into fully fledged Adeptus Astartes, and he makes the final decision on a neophyte's progression to full implantation. The chapter's exacting standards and its relatively slow induction process, largely due to his meticulous assessment,
decide if
ensure
your
that
salamanders
who do
too
eventually
small.
don power armor are exemplars of the chapter. In recent millennia, the Salamanders chapter has remained highly active throughout the Imperium and have engaged in numerous significant conflicts. All 7 of the Salamanders companies mustered to defend the cardinal world of Phaistos and the imperiled Osiris sector. This battle became a mythical event due to its scale and impact. On the planet, orc waves relentlessly broke against the well-prepared defenses of the Salamanders, and in orbit, the fleet fiercely engaged the Greenskin Space Hulk flotilla with aggressive Terminator
the 7th
boarding
Recon boys
actions.
and me. Okay.
A final decisive tactical maneuver involved flooding the course of the main Orc assault on Phaistos with Promethean, which was then set alight as the Salamanders launched their counterattack. The resulting flames were so immense they could be seen from space. The Salamanders also joined several other chapters in the Badab War to halt
Everyone's
the
in
depredations
space.
of the renegade Astral Claws and their secessionist allies. Despite being few in number, their contributions to the conflict were considerable. The Salamanders arrived in 906 M41 in the Maelstrom Zone, though they were initially reluctant to deploy, having fought alongside both the Firehawks and the Astral Claws in recent memory. But when it was found that Huron's forces had turned away from the Imperium, they agreed to the Inquisition's requests, deploying the 2nd Company, supported by elements of many other companies under the command of the then 2nd Company captain, Pelas Mirsan. The chapter fought in most major battles of the war, including the invasion of Sagan, the suppression of Galen, and the siege of Decebalus. They were also instrumental in the rehabilitation of the Executioners chapter during the events of the Red Hour, in which the Salamander's ship, Pyre of Glory, was boarded by Astral Claws and Executioners forces. Desperate to increase their numbers, the Astral...
Wow. Hot Wheels! The Badab War was a proper... Sheesh. I think we learned about that, right? Nyaho Rat Slayer, thank you for the raid. Welcome in. Welcome in. This is Heka's friend. Hello. I hope you have been slaying those rats. Glory to Sigmar. And also with you. Wait, when did you go live? Okay, I guess not as good friends. The space sharks were there too. Okay, then I did hear about that. The Astral Claws, aka the tax evader. Tax evasion! Hey guys, today is tax day in America. Have you paid your taxes? Guys, I paid $300 to get a $21 tax return. Woo! Yeah, baby! Sheesh! Hey! Hey! Yeah! And you know how much billionaires are paying? Nothing. But what? Hell, what do I know? Continue, Ian.
Claws attempted to steal gene seed reserves from the Salamander's ship, an act considered so dishonourable that the executioners turned on their allies and left the secessionist cause. The executioners were then pursued across...
Hi, we go see Love of My Life. I love you. They paid me taxes, so we good? Yeah, well, they're paying me, I guess. Nyaho, keep my baby cakes. They're paying me, I guess. Damn. Continue. Wait, you guys pay taxes? Yeah. I'm not a billionaire, so I gotta pay taxes. Rough. The Lamenters were on the wrong side of it. Oh. My return didn't go through and they just told me about it. Hate that! Riri, thank you for the resub. Itadakimasu.
the Southern Maelstrom Zone by loyalists, including by the Minotaurs chapter, but it was the Salamanders interposing their ships in the resulting conflict that spared the executioners' execution, and in fact brought them back into the loyalist fold with relatively lenient penalties. The Salamanders have also repeatedly deployed into the wars on Armageddon. The Salamanders first came to the planet in response to a cry for aid from Commissar Yarrick, not from the planet's governor, during the Second Armageddon War against the vast War led by the Goth-Orc warlord Gazacal Thraka. By the time Chapter Master Tushan led a strike force containing elements of the first, second, and fifth companies to Armageddon, the planet's defenders were in disarray. Hive Infernus had fallen, and Hive Hades barely held on. Tushan quickly assessed the strategic situation and deployed his forces where they could do the most good. While other Imperial forces engaged the main Orc thrusts, Tushan led his warriors to stabilise defences along the Stygies River. Using gunships and armoured transports, the Salamanders repeatedly relocated their forces to bolster Imperial lines wherever they were wavering, aiding the Steel Legion forces and throwing the Orcs back. As the Salamanders' casualties mounted, their renown swelled amongst the Imperial soldiery. Their proudest moment came when Tushan and his fire drakes held the Martyrs' Bridge for 4 days and nights against the vast Orc horde, and they fought in the final battle of the war alongside Commander Dante and his Blood Angels to break the war for good. However, the war-torn Armageddon never really recovered, constantly battling a lower-level greenskin threat, and all too soon, Gazacal Thraka returned, leading a war that dwarfed his previous invasion. Despite heavy chapter commitments across multiple war zones, Chapter Master Tushan committed a force equal to 3.5 companies. In this third war, the Salamanders purged Orc forces in the equatorial jungles, fought alongside the Black Templars in the defense...
Okay, so we're just gonna pretend Ian is saying that the Salamanders and the Orcs, they had little disagreements, but nobody killed each other and nobody died, and we're all friends and they hugged, okay? That's what Ian's saying. Okay, have fun, pound a sauce of cigars. Hello from Switzerland, hello from the America, the United States, in which we pay taxes. Hello. That reminds me, are you gonna get Waz Daka Gutsmech when he finally goes on sale? I'm gonna get them all. It is my duty to get all of the Orcs. And you can help me do that through Zephyr Arcade. Use my code ssakanasushi for 10% off. Whee! Our favorite toxic relationship. Dun, 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 dun.
Of Hell's Reach Hive, and Tushan and his warriors boarded the Orc rocks that had landed on the Hemlock River with Terminators and Assault Centurions, reducing them to blazing husks. They also protected refugee camps, escorted relief convoys, and safeguarded Medicae facilities, shielding Armageddon's people from the beast's wrath, while other Imperial forces pursued final victory over Gazacal. And then, since the spread of the rift, various companies of the Salamanders have found themselves attempting to protect humanity across a wider front than ever, often against the demonic forces of chaos. On the vital agri-world of Ibranis, they fought the Death Guard's 4th Plague Company under their Gestalt demon overlord, the Eater of Lives. The Death Guard's ships carried thousands of vials containing the Eater Plague, aiming to infect the Imperium's vast supply chain. The Salamanders made planetfall on Imbranus Primus,
What
targeting
is
the
with
Death
these
Guard that
bees?
infested the mobile feed processing cities. They discovered remnants of Legio Ignis Titans trying to engage the Death Guard in open battle, but the Heretic Astartes had entrenched themselves within the cities, tormenting the Titans with waves of demons. The Salamanders engaged in savage, short-range firefights within the processing cities, but neither side yielded, and the once verdant plains were transformed into black mires by Nurglite plagues and then salamander flames. After 3 grueling months, the Salamanders finally began to gain ground as ash blizzards formed from the infernos they had lit, and little life was left. The Death Guard eventually abandoned the planet through a rent in reality, but after the Death Guard retreated, Salamander scouts discovered more vials of the plague on shipments leaving the system, and realizing the enormity of the threat, they dedicated themselves to purging the rest of the taint. They fought the Death Guard again, a war Salask, targeting key Chaos Cult strongholds and reducing their coordination so that the local PDF and RBTs could finally engage them and stop the spread. And on Largos, they responded to astropathic distress calls in force, battling the bloodthirster Khazul and his Khornate legions in dozens of simultaneous engagements across the system. Though the Salamanders suffered serious losses, the Battle Brothers continued to fight methodically from hive to hive, planet to planet, systematically burning Khorne's minions away, and finally confronted the Bloodthirster, where Tushan, his fire drakes, and his remaining librarians smote the creature's form and cast its spirit back to Khorne.
Get him
Despite
out of
this
here!
history of sacrifice, the Salamanders chapter stands as strong as ever in the 41st millennium. They eagerly received the knowledge and equipment required to manufacture Primaris Space Marines, finally increasing their ability to manufacture new warriors. A number of Primaris Space Marines have already advanced into the elite first
Let's
company
freaking
and earned their
go.
place, and many of their commanders, notably Captain Adrak Zagatoni, commander of the third company,
Smoked
have
and
undergone the
salamander.
Rubicon Primaris, embracing the option for augmented physiology. Despite the profound disruptions of the Great Rift, their own tendency to overcommit themselves to any battle they find worthy, and 10 millennia of conflict, the Salamanders continue to embody the qualities of their Primarch, his unwavering dedication to humanity, his craftsmanship, and his unique bond with fire in the forge. And who knows, technically, Vulkan is one of the Primarchs that is still out there, missing since the War of the Beast. If they can surmount the obvious issues of the Great Rift and find those final 4 artifacts, maybe another Primarch could be returned to the service of the Imperium.
I
The
believe.
Salamanders are an interesting chapter. They were first introduced for the Bad Ab War in this fetching camo scheme back in 1989.
Ew.
You can see a variant on the cover of this old Battle for
Thank
Armageddon
goodness
board
they
game.
glue up.
But then, while often appearing in the general lists of Space Marine chapters, they basically take 2nd edition off. They're kind of reintroduced into the game during 3rd edition, especially for Codex Armageddon in 2000, and then for an Index Astartes article in White Dwarf 274 in 2002. By this point, they are green, not stripy yellow, and most of the general lore about Nocturne and Vulkan is first described in these articles, but the rest about the 9 artifacts and the various companies, and even the fact that they're more concerned with the general people of the Imperium than most Space Marines, doesn't start being added until 5th edition 40k in the late
Ooh.
2000s, when there was more of an attempt to bring to the fore all the first founding chapters and show how different they are. It's also notable that 5th edition is when they were first depicted as having charcoal black skin and red eyes. Up until this point, basically nothing was ever stated about their skin, but since about 2000, they'd been depicted by Games Workshop as looking like, well, how we'd use the word black today, like people from sub-Saharan Africa. I could probably do a whole video on Games Workshop's historical caginess about the races of their models, but for whatever reason, in 2005, they decided that instead of just being dark-skinned, the Salamanders would now all have burning eyes and charcoal skin like lava people, because, you know, radiation or something. Possibly as a lovely counterpoint to the fact that they're the nicest chapter, but also because the races of their models was a conversation Games Workshop really wanted to avoid in the 2000s. Anyway, that nicest chapter thing is really the interesting stuff here, because of course no one in 40k is nice. They're only the nice chapter by 40k standards. The Salamanders are still
Hey, I
more
think
than
they're
happy
nice.
to exterminate whole populations by burning them to death if they think it's necessary. They're still Space Marines. It's just very Warhammer to make the chapter, who are apparently the most compassionate, specialize in the use of war crime weapons. Anyway, that's the Salamanders for you.
Hey, I
Burning
mean,
their
sounds
way
good to
through the
me.
rebellious masses of the 41st millennium and somehow coming out of it as the good guys. Thanks for watching.
Hey, I think the Salamanders would love RimWorld. Thoughts? I think Vulkan and I would be playing RimWorld all day, every day. Thoughts? He'd buy resurrection mechtions out the wazoo. Hey, I think they're nice guys. I still like them. Okay. So that was an overview of a little of Vulkan and the Salamanders from Ian, and now this is more on the Salamanders. It might be stuff we've already heard, but it's from different perspectives. When I grow up, I want to be a salamander. A salamander. Yeah, that can be. AJ, you can be my salamander. Okay? Yeah. Becoming a salamander marine low-key sucks simply because you have to do the same shit Vulkan and the Emperor did, slay a Nocturne Drake, and that's just one of the prerequisites as an initiate. I mean, like I said, you can kill a little one. Who's gonna stop you? I'm not there to regulate them yet. Their successor chapters are really cool. What are the successor chapters for the Salamanders? I don't think we're going into it. I don't think any of these go into the successor chapters.
On the anvil of war are the
This is the Remembrancer. Don't forget to like.
strong-tempered, and the weak made to perish. Thus are men's souls tested, as metal in the forge's fire.
The angels of death are regarded as the Emperor's will made manifest, descending from the heavens onto the bleakest of battlefields to fell the enemies of humanity in its hours of greatest need. Gleaming in their panoplies of war, they are resplendent reminders to the servants of the Imperium that they shall be protected from the darkness. Yet of all the chapters of the Space Marines, there is one above all that protects the weak and embodies the mercy of the Emperor. The 18th Legion of the Adeptus Astartes, the Salamanders.
The Salamanders.
Known during the Unification Wars as the Dragon Warriors, the 18th Legion, like all of the proto-legions of the Adeptus Astartes, would be secluded from their peers, particularly the Dragon Warriors and their so-called trefoil kin of the 6th and 20th Legions. Their deeds and battle honors obscured from history, the 18th Legion, due to their secretive origins, would be regarded with suspicion by the other legions.
Suspicion?
Garnering a reputation with their first engagement at the
But they're
assault
good
of
guys.
the Tempest Galleries during 800 M30. The Dragon Warriors would achieve a near impossible victory alone against all odds of survival. Suffering incredible losses and reducing their number from over 20,000 Astartes to as little as 1,000 battle brothers, the Dragon Warriors would secure a reputation as bloodied yet glorious and honorable combatants. Rapidly replenishing their numbers, the Dragon Warriors would be supplied with new war gear as the favored sons of the newly born Imperium, yet be stalled in taking part in the many expeditions of the early days of the Great Crusade. Rarely serving as a legion, the 18th would be split into smaller battalions to reinforce battle groups across the Imperium. Often assigned to crucial engagements against space hulks or Xenos raiding parties behind the lines of the advancing waves of forces of the Crusade. Cooperating closely with human military forces as the only Space Marines in service, the Dragon Warriors would brave the most hazardous and deadly theaters of war, earning the Legion many accolades as saviors, bastions of hope, and the personification of the Emperor's protection and grace. Yet as a result of their conflicts, the Legion would never replenish to its full strength akin to the standards of the other legions. Their survival and continuation as a legion, uncertain, during their 4th decade of service, until the return of their primarch, Vulkan. Found on the death world of Nocturne, Vulkan would not be reunited with his legion for many years. Tutored by the Emperor himself, the Primarch of the 18th Legion would be tempered with the ruler of mankind's boundless wisdom, and in the hour of his legion's greatest need, he would be returned to them.
Oh, just kidding.
On the cluster of planets near the Taurus division, the 18th Legion of 19,000 Astartes would be besieged by a horde of millions of the Orc Xenos. Facing overwhelming odds, the Dragon Warriors would be under the command of their chapter master, Cassian Vaughn. Evacuating the civilian populations of the system, the 18th Legion would suffer terrible losses for their compassion. Refusing to stand idle whilst his sons perished, Vulkan would aid his legion alongside 3,000 initiates from his homeworld of Nocturne. Spurring the Dragon Warriors' survivors, Vulkan would lead the counterattack and purge the Xenos from the system. The two halves of the Legion would unite in the aftermath of the battle, with Vulkan revealing himself to his long-lost sons. The Dragon Warriors would kneel before their Gene Father, yet be bid to stand by Vulkan, declaring that all of his sons were equals, for Vulkan would not be regarded as some petty king demanding obedience. Instead, Vulkan would kneel before his legion to honor the lives that had been lost as payment to protect the innocents that had fled the system. Henceforth, the legion would be remade under the tutelage of their Primarch. These were Dragon Warriors no longer. The 18th would now bear a different name, a name derived from their Primarch's homeworld of Nocturne, the Salamanders. Divided into 7 great companies led by a Lord Commander or Protector, born from each of Nocturne's settlements, the Salamanders would field 34 companies during the Great Crusade.
34?
Always acknowledged as the smallest in number amongst all of the legions of Adeptus
Smallest?
The Salamanders would compensate for their scale by implementing new battle doctrines and strategies. Encouraging self-sufficiency and autonomy, Vulkan would enable each settlement to foster their own cultural traditions within their companies, further buttressing the Legion's relationships to their human counterparts within their lands. Yet with the dawn of a new age for the Salamanders, a new darker future would begin with the embers of betrayal and heresy. Called to face the traitor War Master, Horus Lupercal, the Salamanders would accompany the Iron Hands and Raven Guard legions to prevent the rebellion of the traitor Astartes and their Primarchs from growing in number. Sent as the spear tip to crush the 4 traitor legions of the Death Guard, World Eaters, Emperor's Children, and Sons of Horus, the Loyalists would crush the rebellion with the amassed strength of 7 legions, soon to be reinforced by the Iron Warriors, Night Lords, Word Bearers, and Alpha Legion. However, the Loyalist legions would be betrayed by their allies during the Dropside Massacre of Istvan V, with the Salamanders losing their Primarch and being broken under the heel of the traitors. Shattered into fragments of their newly rebuilt glory, the 18th Legion and its fellow fractured legionaries would retreat from the massacre, with first captain of the Salamanders, Artellus Numion, leading the scattered forces of his legion to safety. Finding shelter on the ultramarine planet of Macragge, the Salamanders would bear the shame of their defeat and loss of their Primarch, as the galaxy would be split in 2. Imperium Secundus would be formed by Rabute Guilliman, Primarch of the Ultramarines, with Ultramar as the newly formed contingent empire should the Imperium fall to the wrath of the traitors. Yet in their darkest hour, the Salamanders would find a sliver of hope with the return of their Primarch, Vulkan. Vulkan's return to his legion would be as much a gift as an omen.
Wait, I want to hear more about the Salamanders just hanging out at Blueberry Planet and being like, damn, lost our dad, lost that war. What are we gonna do? Uncle Rabute's here, telling us to keep kicking ass and taking names. It's like a school AU, no?
His mind and body broken, the Legion's survival would fall to Artellus Numion to forge a path to redemption. Venturing to their homeworld of Nocturne, Numion would sacrifice his own life to reawaken his Primarch and renew the fire within his legion. Primarch Vulkan would journey to Holy Terror to aid in its defense, leaving his salamanders to independently face their duty in defending the Imperium. Allying themselves with their battle-forged brothers of the Iron Hands and Raven Guard, the salamanders would conduct guerrilla war strikes against the traitor forces until the end of the Horus Heresy, reforging their legion in the subsequent millennia to face the darkness alone until their primarch should return to them. Too few in number to be divided into successor chapters, the salamanders would rebuild, their numbers able to bear new chapters at the dawn of the 42nd millennium, with the introduction of the Primaris Space Marines into their ranks. Though some mysterious chapters bear the heraldry of the 18th Legion, their origins likely born from stockpiles of the Salamander's gene seed. Regardless of their lackluster numbers, the Salamanders have grown synonymous with the Legion's reputations as true bulwarks against the ruinous powers. Their compassion for humanity and unbreakable duty to preserve the will of the Emperor, known across the Imperium. For it is believed by the Salamanders chapter that one day their Primarch shall return to them, once all the artifacts of Vulkan have been found, and with their return to their chapter,
Little crazy,
their retribution shall be at hand. The Salamander's gene seed bears a unique trait unlike many of those of the founding legions. Similar to the gene seed of the Alpha Legion and Space Wolves, the gene seed of the Salamanders was constructed by the Emperor for a unique purpose. The exact purpose has been lost to history, with only the Emperor likely aware of its design, but with the efforts of the Magos Biologists, a theoretical has been achieved. The determination from such study shows that the Salamander's gene seed is uncorrupted and stable in nature.
Ooh.
Oddly, the Salamander's reaction time seem to be slower than other Astartes as a direct defect from their gene seed, though some within the Biologists regard this as a result of the chapter's homeworld's high gravity or psycho-conditioning, though this trait is mitigated once an 18th Legion Astartes is equipped with power armor. The radiation of Nocturne has also caused the Legion's characteristic jet-black skin and bright red, burning eyes. A superficial characteristic, it nonetheless has proven useful during deployments to rebellious worlds in intimidating the populace and allowing for compliance without the use of force. Yet the Salamanders do bear
Wait, so their gene seed is stable, it's just they're a little bit slower, but they could also be slower because of the planet that they came from? But all of that is fixed when they have their power armor? So they don't have any debuffs? Or are they still a little bit slower than other Space Marines? Because now their slowness is fixed, but Space Marines probably get faster with the armor, no?
Positive traits as a result of their unique gene crafting, such as firesight. The ability for the Sons of Vulkan to see infrared emissions of specific heat signatures without the aid of helmet visors.
Also, if the Emperor didn't know that his sons were going to be scattered, how did Vulcans just so happen to have that infrared sight that would be really helpful on their fire planet? Crazy, huh?
Allowing for the Salamanders to implement thermic materials into their armor and vehicles, to enable the chapter to conduct midnight raids and skirmishes, while still being able to clearly identify allied combatants and vehicles. Also allowing the chapter to use such materials to create tactical markings and communications that can otherwise not be seen by the naked eye. Alike to some of its contemporary legions, such as the Space Wolves and Blood Angels, recruitment amongst the 18th Legion is an arduous process, yielding few new members. Each company recruits solely from the citizenry of their clan. As such, each company comprises solely of fellow clan members, bolstering their bonds of kinship, of unrivaled loyalty and respect. From the ages of 6 to 8, prospective Nocturne recruits work within the forge of a Salamander's Space Marine. Monitored for signs of talent, the initiates will work for years under the tutelage of the Astartes, and should they show promise, be cross-examined by the chapter's apothecaries and chaplains. The chosen few undergo the first stages of organ implantation, receiving further procedures as they endure and accomplish the trials set before them. Molded in the image of their Primarch, the neophytes will be set tasks replicating the feats of their Genefather's youth, culminating in the trial of hunting a salamander, honoring the original contest between Vulkan and the Emperor of mankind. As a
Little
Codex
dragon,
Astartes compliant chapter, The Salamanders adhere to the doctrine of 10 companies, numbering 1,000 Space Marines. Equipped with armor and weaponry often crafted by their own hand, the Astartes of the Salamanders chapter are revered for their skill at the forge. Their war gear regularly adorned with symbols of scales, anvils, flames, and the iconic Salamanders Drakes of Nocturne. Their armor a bright green hue, often marked with a golden aquila on the chestplate. Their right pauldrons displaying their tactical designation, whether it be battle line, close support, fire support, veteran, or command staff. The battle and reserve companies adding a low Gothic numeral of their designated role to assign their squad. Their company is shown on the left shoulder plate, each company represented with the head of a large salamander, with contrasting colors to identify their company, as outlined by the Codex Astartes. Yet the 18th Legion retains its custom of dividing their number amongst 7 warrior houses akin to their original Legion structure. Each company inhabits one of the great settlements of Nocturne, and comprises of 12 battle squads, as standard. With the chapter master of the Salamanders directly overseeing and eschewing the need for a company captain by commanding the first company, the Fire Drakes. Comprised entirely of veteran warriors of the Legion and paragons of their values, the Fire Drakes are armed with Terminator armor, Stern Guard veterans, and venerable dreadnoughts. Fielding no barracks, the first company reside within the chapter's fortress monastery on Nocturne's moon of Prometheus, directing training cadres, coordinating security protocols, and maintaining the honor guard of the chapter. The senior lieutenants of the chapter master undertake much of the chapter's leadership duties. The second company, the Defenders of Nocturne, aid the most vulnerable subjects of the Imperium. Often protecting Imperial citizenry, such as factory workers, the second company is often ready to aid allied Imperial forces, such as the Astra Militarum or Night Houses. Boosting the morale of Imperium forces and undertaking leadership roles during deployment. The third company, the Pyroclasts, are synonymous with flame weaponry, rooting out entrenched enemy positions and purging heretics and Xenos alike with holy fire. The third company also bear the burden of cleansing populaces of corrupted
How does the fire
sympathizers
become
of
holy?
Xenos, forever balanced on the knife edge of adhering to the Promethean creed and teachings of Vulkan. The fourth company, the Branded, serve the chapter as their bastion of faith. Closely tied to the chapter's reclusiasm, the members of the fourth company compulsively and ritualistically brand their flesh as a show of faith to their beliefs. Specializing in close quarters combat, the fourth company's large composition of chaplains fill the company's spirits with unmatched zealous fury. The fifth company, the Drake Hunters, are renowned for their ability to fell gargantuan Xenos and enemy fortifications. Respected hunters of Nocturne salamander drakes, the reserve company rarely fight as a consolidated company, rather supplying their members to bolster the 4 battle companies during protracted campaigns. Favoring mobile weapon platforms and static defenses, the 5th Company squad employs a large number of dreadnoughts and an extensive variety of gunships and attack crafts.
It just has to be burning humanity's enemies to be considered holy? Okay. Well, that's easy. Also, I forgot.
The 6th Company, the Flame Hammers, are composed of fast-moving transports armed with heavy firepower. The first company to comprise Space Marines who have fulfilled their duty as Scout Marines, the Flame Hammers enable the deployment and evacuation of squadrons within the thick of battle. And finally, the 7th Company, the Sons of Nocturne, consist of Vanguard and Scout Marines. Complying to the exacting standards of the Codex Astartes neophyte training regimes, the Sons of Nocturne spill their blood and prove their mettle in the name of their primarch, so that one day they shall don the full plate armor and heraldry of their battle brothers, their reformation relatively new to the chapter, since its abandonment prior to the second founding of the Adeptus Astartes. Each Salamander Astartes rank is denoted by their helmet coloring, with sergeants painting a white skull, veteran sergeants
I
a
remember.
white skull.
Okay. Good night, Biggie. I remember. So the Drake Hunters, right? The ones that are made to fight like larger Xenos. If they trained Drakes to eat Tyranids, they could ride them and also have them eat Tyranids. And that is how they keep the sacred, bigger, older Drakes alive. They feed them Tyranids and they train them and they take them out to war. Duh. Genius idea. Genius. Thank you. Thank you.
With a crown of fire, lieutenants' helms show a white skull with a centered stripe, and captains bear more ornate helmets centered with the white skull. Their right pauldrons additionally denoting their rank. Specialized roles within the chapter also adhere to the guidance of the Codex Astartes. Chaplains paint their armor in the black of the reclusiasm, and librarians paint their armor blue, both alike to their cousin chapters' customs, whilst the chapter's tech marines deviate slightly from their fellow loyalist chapters by only
Looking like
painting their arms
Christmas.
in the red heraldry of Mars, whilst retaining the green armor of their chapter. Deviating further from the Codex Astartes, the chapter maintains not one, but 3 Masters of the Forge, enabling the chapter to effectively maintain their machinery, panoplies of war, weapons, artifacts, and honoring their heritage as Masters of the Craft of weaponsmithing. The chapter master is given the utmost command of the chapter, yet maintains the Pantheon Council to provide support and discussion on the appointments of its members and campaigns fought across the stars. Their master of the fleet known as the Lord of the Burning Skies, commanding their battle barges and strike cruisers to enact the will of the Imperium on distant worlds and battlefields. For the sons of Nocturne shall cleanse a path through the filth of the galaxy, their embers of their homeworld revivifying their morale and courageous charges into the dark corners of far-flung worlds.
Unless you are capable of enduring whatever hurt you can inflict, there will come a time when you will fail. And by failing you will have made useless the sacrifice of millions. We are the Salamanders, and we will endure. For no sacrifice made in the name of this great empire we seek to build shall be made in vain.
Yeah,
This has been a tale
Salamanders.
of the great Imperium of Man, read by the Remembrancer.
Thank you,
Sons of
Remembrancer.
I hope this transmission has stoked the flames within you. Yet there is another chapter on the horizon to elucidate. The secretive 20th Legion, known as the Alpha Legion.
That has nothing to do with us. Hello from Australia. Hello, Achilles of Troy. Welcome in. Okay. Alrighty, Salamanders. I have some notes that I will be discussing exactly with Vulkan, and I hope he takes them to heart. This is the last video. We end it with a crack duck, because honestly, crack duck, if there was anything I misunderstood, crack duck is going to get in here and put it in my brain and make sure I am knowing things. I love ending with a crack duck. Let's take it home, boys. Don't forget to like.
Hi, friends. Wait, friends? What a coincidence I should mention friends, because today we're talking about the Salamanders. The Salamanders are my
A friend
favorite
to
Space
all.
Marine chapter. They have everything I like. It's no secret that I like green, and no matter how dumb this might seem, I actually like the nicer characters in 40k. So Salamanders
Aw.
really hit the spot. They're green, not too mean, and they love flamethrowers. So let's just jump right into it, just like a salamander would. The Salamanders were the 18th Legion of the First Founding. Before being reunited with their primarch Vulkan, the Salamanders were known as the Dragon Warriors, and they were masters of the ancient art of Kung Fu. That last part was a joke, but honestly, Kung Fu Marines would actually be pretty funny. But yes, they were the Dragon Warriors, and even from the start, they had a
I
penchant
believed
for
him.
sacrificing themselves in order to protect mankind. When the Dragon Warriors finally met their daddy Vulkan, he commended their selflessness in protecting the Imperial citizens against a massive orc horde. Vulkan even
Daddy's
knelt to
proud.
his legion in respect of their heroics in the face of doom. The legion was renamed after the giant salamanders of Vulkan's home world of Nocturne. During the Heresy, the Salamanders completed a number of seemingly impossible missions, often taking huge casualties in the process. They prioritized protecting humanity above all else, sometimes at the cost of efficiency and often at the cost of their lives. They preferred last stands over lasting long. That sounded weird. I meant
Whoa.
lasting long as in living. But
Okay.
regardless, this affinity for last stands meant that the Salamander Legion was one of the smallest legions of the Heresy, since they often took heavy losses in their campaign. Most notably in their first ever mission in the Unification Wars, the Isfahan drop site massacre, and of course in the aforementioned battle where they first met Vulkan. After
Yeah.
the Heresy, since Salamanders got Salamander-stroyed so hard, they weren't able to make many successor
love
chapters.
crack duck.
In fact, it was widely believed that the Salamanders didn't have any successor chapters at all until the Ultimate Founding and the introduction of everybody's favorite Marines, the Primaris. Although they've long been said to have no successor chapters prior to the Ultimate founding, it has long been rumored and recently confirmed that there were in fact some successor chapters for the Salamanders.
Oh.
But let's be honest, was it really a question that something like the Black Dragons was a successor chapter to the Salamanders? They use similar tactics and they're dragon themed. Like last I checked, something like the Space Wolves weren't dragon themed. They're getting overhated themed. Also, black skin, black armor. Coincidence? I think not. But after the Ultimate founding, they did get some new friends, such as the Dragon Spears, the Iron Drakes, and my personal favorite of the bunch, the Dark Krakens. And funnily enough, the Dark Krakens and the Dragon Spears are actually most notable for their aquatic operations. The Krakens hailing from the ocean world where they fight giant sea monsters, and the Dragon Spears known for fighting alongside the Space Wolves in a reef-side battle. These two successor chapters show that the Administratum obviously doesn't play Pokemon. Is what you would say if you were a fool. True Pokemon masters know that the Salamanders will be fire dragon type, which means
you fools.
Is what you would say
Freaking
if you were a fool, because real true Pokemon masters know that the Salamander Pokemon is the Charizard line, and they got stuck with fire flying for whatever reasons, and would
you
still
fools.
be weak to water. So, plot twist, the original statement was right, and the Administratum probably had.
This is the size of a Charmander next to a Space Marine? Okay, Short King. Wait, that's cute. Wait, he's just a little guy. Wait, I love it. Okay, Salamanders should have Charmanders. Charmanders. Salamanzards. I'll get there. Hey, I'll get there. Hello, nearest. Warhammer starts with a W. W Warhammer. Black Dragon Dimension. Let's go.
Oh, plot twist. The original statement was right, and the Administratum probably hasn't played the ancient simulation of Pokemon.
Boo!
Also, nobody bring up Salamence. The Charmander line is much closer to the Salamanders, so I will have none of that. But back to 40k. Hearing about these cool green fellas might have you asking, well, how can I become a Salamander?
How
Well,
can I become
first
a
off,
Salamander?
You shouldn't want to become a Space Marine. It's literally torture and you become a freakish weirdo. But
Yeah.
second off, being a Space Marine is actually pretty cool, so maybe you do want to become them because you got sick-ass armor and the incredible strength to cope with the loss
And 21
of almost
organs.
all your brothers and
Oh.
maybe your dad after your cousins brutally betray you, and then you get to witness everything you've ever fought for rapidly crumbling before your eyes for the next 10,000 years. Oh, I read that wrong. I mean, you get the incredible strength to bonk your foes with a giant master-crafted thunder hammer.
Yay!
For the Emperor, am I right, boy?
For the Emperor!
Each Space Marine chapter has a slightly different initiate process and trials along with the standard Space Marine surgical operations. And the Salamander trial is actually quite cool as it's modeled on Vulkan's life and upbringing. First, they work as an apprentice for a salamander, learning smithing and other valuable life skills. Then, if worthy, they're taking Prometheus to get the Astartes procedures done on him. After the operation,
Wow.
the new Space Marines...
So first you have to be a little apprentice Drake, apprentice Smith to the Salamanders. Cute. Then they surgery you. Cute.
Gals perform the trials that the Emperor and Vulkan did when they
And then you
first
catch
met.
a salamander.
All of this culminates in them being sent to hunt a giant fire-breathing salamander for which the chapter was named. Once completed, the scout can become a full-fledged Marine. In the current setting, the Salamanders are fulfilling their normal Space Marine duties of crusading and protecting humanity. Notably, they showed up at Hell's Reach, they were in the Badab War, and they participated in the Indominus Crusade. Along with that, the Salamanders are also on a mega scavenger hunt for the artifacts of Vulkan. These are 9 epic artifacts forged by Vulkan himself and were scattered across the galaxy. It's said that once all 9 artifacts are collected, the Vulkan will return to lead his chapter once more. Clues to their whereabouts have been teased in the Tome of Fire, and the Salamanders gotta
like
catch
the
them all.
frickin'...
Damn, that is the second
What is
Pokemon
that?
reference in this video.
It's like the frickin' in Inuyasha. The Sacred Jewel. We have to reunite the Sacred Jewel and wish for Vulkan to come back. Didn't think you didn't expect me to make an Inuyasha reference. Continue.
Fire, and the Salamanders gotta catch them all. Damn, that is the second Pokemon reference in this video. Instead of that, let's just say, much like Funko Pops, the Salamanders need to collect every last one of them. And that just made me think. The Salamanders have to collect a bunch of legendary weapons and artifacts in order to bring back a powerful leader and bring a whole new era to the faction. Call me a heretic, but that sounds a lot like the Eldar Crone Swords to me. Perhaps, Eldar, we are not too different after all.
Oh,
Come here
I
and
didn't
give
say
me a
that.
hug, elf man.
Oh, I didn't say that.
Bullshit? Nah, JK, LMAO. Eat flamer, you dumb bitch.
Eat flamer, you dumb bitch. I love cracked up. Inuyasha mentioned in 2026 was something I was not expecting, but a welcome one. Hey, that's me. I'm something you didn't expect, but welcomed. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man. The Salamander's dragon iconography isn't just for show. These Green Marines are well known for their use of flamers, meltas, and other fiery weapons. Their preferred tactic is to use heavy
fire!
armor so they could get close to the enemy and flamethrow them into the Shadow Realm. The
Fire!
Salamander's resilience and flame weapons make for a devastating combo in close quarters. And even though they're some of the nicer dudes in 40k, that's only if they like you. If not, well, they're some of the most
Hey,
ferocious Marines out
Salamander, do you
there.
like me?
Primarch Vulkan was said to have fury that surpasses
Hey, do you
even
like me?
Leman Russ, a
Do you still
true
like me?
dragon on the battlefield, if you will. Outside of combat, the Salamanders are expert blacksmiths. They create and maintain all of their gear, a lot of which is master-crafted works of art. They also have large forge ships that manufacture weapons for the Salamanders on the go. How convenient. Another cool thing about the Salamanders is that, unlike most chapters, the Salamanders' fortress monastery is on the moon of their home planet, and is only really supposed to house the first company. The rest of the Salamanders live on Nocturne when they're not at war. This means that they actually hang out with the people of Nocturne and they could keep in touch with their families when not crusading. Along with their culture, Salamanders
Yay,
also have some interesting abilities
culture.
and quirks from their unique gene seed. The most obvious and iconic one is the jet black skin and glowing red eyes. This unique appearance results from a flaw in their otherwise stable gene seed. Their gene seed results in a defect with the Space Marines' melanochrome organ. This organ usually allows Space Marines to alter their melanin content on the fly in order to respond to various UV levels accordingly. However, due to the
Okay,
defective
nobody else
melanochrome
explained
organ, when
that.
a salamander goes to their home planet of Nocturne, the organ goes into super crazy overdrive mode, and their skin turns permanently coal black, and their eyes a burning red. These mutations make them look particularly intimidating on the field as the hulking giants stomp the battlefield with eyes burning through the fogs of war, scaring some opponents in submission even before
Hey,
the
they're
battle
just
begins.
girly popping out
Speaking
here.
of eyes, salamanders also have infrared vision just like the predator. This is called the firesight and is obviously a useful ability as it would grant improved visibility in certain scenarios. One thing the salamanders use this for is to put cool designs in their armor that emits heat that only the salamanders can really see. Another more practical application is seeing through smoke, kind of like the thing that fire tends to make, and fire being the thing that salamanders tend to make. Oh hey, that's a kick-ass combo if you ask me. It should be noted that, theoretically, the IR vision would be worse with thick black smoke that oil fires would typically make, but also flamers are said to burn super duper hot, so technically they shouldn't really
It's
produce
all
smoke
good.
until the fire itself is dying out. But also, I just spent like an hour reading about smoke physics and never really got a
Hey, what a
clear
real
answer,
one!
so I'm kind of losing my mind. So let's just say that the 40k rule of cool makes whatever we need to work, and we don't think too hard about it. So with that in mind, let's just imagine for a second
Any
how
smoke
scary it would
nerds in
be for
here?
these giants to stomp into the battlefield, spew fire everywhere, burning everything around them. You can't see anything through the smoke other than their piercing red eyes closing in on you, crushing anything in their way. Yeah, salamanders are the best. Sucks to be a heretic, you scumbag. More
Yeah,
perks of being a
sucks to be a
salamander is that they're
heretic.
physically
Get
bigger than the average
flamed,
Marine. They have
bitch.
high tolerances to extreme heat and radiation, and they have an above-average regeneration ability. And I wonder if that regeneration thing was written because in real life salamanders can regenerate parts of themselves,
Their tail!
or if it was just a generic durability thing. But
Wait,
the salamander gene
cute!
seed isn't all sun flares and flamers. There are a few flaws in it. Along with the aforementioned defective melanochrome organ, salamanders also apparently have slower reflex times. Nothing super noticeable, and they're still superhumanly fast, but it is notably slower than other Astartes.
Okay,
Another
that's what I was
weakness you could say
asking.
if you're a dickhead, cough, Perturabo, cough, Kurz, cough, almost every 40k character, is that the salamanders have an affinity for a strange concept known as basic empathy, and they try to defend
Whoa!
mankind at any cost. It's hinted at, but it's still
Empathy!
unclear if this strange quirk is connected to their gene seed or not. But that final point is why I believe the Salamanders to be the perfect Marine. I have always subscribed to the perspective that the Emperor valued humanity above all else, and the insane lengths he went to were always in the interest of protecting humanity and guiding them to prosperity. Even though he was very flawed and made some seemingly nonsensical decisions to further his goals, the Emperor saw humanity as number one. He's literally me. Even something as innocuous as the Imperium skull motif furthers this idea. The human form in itself is beautiful and pure, even in its decayed state. The Emperor created his transhumans in order to lead humanity to their rightful dominion of the galaxy. The Thunder Warriors, the Marines, the Custodes, and even the Primarchs, actually especially the Primarchs, were just tools, means to achieve his ultimate goal. So, with that in mind, the Salamanders fully embody the purpose of the Astartes. They are stalwart defenders of humanity to the umpth degree. Murderface McGee might be a more deadly soldier, but if he doesn't care if he kills every single human in order to quote-unquote save a city, he's missing his true purpose.
Yeah,
Salamanders, on the
Murderface
other hand,
McGee.
They will do anything necessary to save humanity, almost to a fault. In addition, they don't look down on humanity, nor do they condemn them. Much like how Vulkan respects his sons and views himself as a protector and teacher rather than a superior, the Salamanders respect base humankind. And I better not see the stupid argument that this means the Salamanders aren't grim dark and the setting is dead. The Salamanders are literally dark because of their gene seed flaw. Pay attention!
Yeah!
But joking aside, the Salamanders might care about humanity, but they're still ultra-violent.
That doesn't mean they're weak.
Anything that may threaten humanity. Having characters do heroic things doesn't mean that they're morally pure, nor does it mean that the setting as a whole isn't grim dark. There needs to be light to accentuate the darkness, so having a faction like the Salamanders perform noble actions while constantly taking heavy losses to hopelessly protect a doomed empire is a whole lot darker to me than asshole murder axe angrily killing jerk-face asshammer and then stomping a baby. If every single character is an angry jerk, then that isn't a grim setting. It just means that the norm for the setting is that everybody's a jerk.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the Salamanders. I love these dudes, and they hit all of my check marks for the best Space Marine chapter. I love characters in fictions that constantly get their ass kicked, but they stay determined, and they stick to their values no matter what.
And they
Also,
get back down.
dragons are badass.
And they
What
get
can
up
I say?
again.
So, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I look forward to doing some more videos on different chapters, so stay tuned for that. And comment below some cool Salamander moments or just what your favorite chapter is. Thank you for watching, and thank you to all the epic patrons.
Thank you,
support the channel even
Cracked
more.
Up. Thank you for explaining smoke with me. Do you want to cuddle your enemies to sleep, or you want to slit throats like your wife left you for a jugular vein? You know, the grim dark thing about the Salamanders is that out of 20 legions, they're the only one with empathy. And that's the grim dark part. And you know what? We're going to leave that at that. Woo! Party! That was the Salamanders. I like them. I think Vulkan's my favorite Primarch now. But we still need to learn about Riri's husband, Sanguinus Venus. You guys still want me to learn about Robooty. Yeah. Twitch subscribers and YouTube channel members, please let me know what we should do next time. I know some people want it. It was pretty close. The poll on YouTube was really close between Salamanders and continuing Black Templars, especially going into Hell's Reach. But let me know what you want to see next week, because I don't like making decisions and I want you to make them for me. Yay, 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 yay. That's what we're here for, guys. Woo! Make decisions for me. Sheesh. I say we do Sanguine, because they're in the Heresy. Rub the booty, my Primarch. We got booty. We got Venus. Let me know. Booty or Venus? That's going to be the poll for next week. Booty or Venus? And if you weren't here at this stream, you're not going to know what that means. And you're going to be like, what is wrong with this fish? And I'm going to be like, hey, it makes sense to me, man. It makes sense to me. Okay. Let's find some Warhammers. Venus or booty? This is the rain message. This is the second rain message. Thank you guys for hanging out. I will see you. What's on the schedule? I will see you Friday for some RimWorld, maybe. If Leora is not able to make the mod pack by then, we'll do something else on Friday, okay? And then Pokemans on Sunday. Maybe we'll do Space Marines on Friday. I don't know. We'll see. RimWorld could change to Space Marines if the mod pack's not ready. Okay, gotta go. Love you or whatnot and whatever. Bye. Doo-doo-doo. Oh my gosh, what is that? Is that a code for Zephyr Arcade? Is that code ssakanasushi for 10% off of Zephyr Arcade if you're in the US? That's crazy. Evil Oreo King 666, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. Welcome new fishies. Evil Oreo King 666. Sir Baron T. Straub Possum. Lugia Splash and Biscuit Rose. Thank you for the resub. AJ and Lily. Thank you for the Biddy's Grand Taurus. And thank you for sharing your community with me, Biscuit Rose and the Rat Slayer. Bye everybody. Bye, bye, bye. Bye Heckle. Bye AJ. Bye Hayden. Bye Grand Taurus. Bye Neris. Bye Achilles of Troy. Bye Biggie. Bye Orb Jokai. Bye, 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 bye. Hey, did you like this video? Did you comment and subscribe?